All right, that is 100% the best Christmas song of all time. Feliz Navidad, baby. Merry Christmas to all of you. It's been crazy. The season's been crazy. The portal's been crazy. College football playoff is coming up, but we ain't done yet. We ain't done yet. We got so much more to come in such a short amount of time. Tonight's going to be a show that we move through things pretty quickly. I want to get to the calls. The call-in link is pinned in the chat. Y'all can click that now. I'll probably talk for maybe 20, 30, maybe more than that before we get into that. We got a lot to go through. And transfer portal, playoff, the bowl game is creeping up all of a sudden. We're about over a week out, just over a week out. I want to touch on everything a little bit, but Merry Christmas to you guys. Probably the last call-in show we'll do before Christmas. I am going to do a watch party, though, for the 2 morning playoff games on Saturday. We're going to do SMU, Penn State, and we're going to do Texas, Clemson. We're going to watch those together, so make sure you guys tune in for that. But I just suggest that we savor everything right now. I know there's been some good portal stuff. There's been some bad portal stuff. But about a month from now, we're entering that 7-month window where there's just no college football, and we got baseball, we got other things to keep us occupied. But football, man, it's about to come to an end. So I just suggest savoring every moment. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to start with the portal kind of recap, talking about team needs. Definitely want to hear from you guys. If you guys have anything specifically you want me to address about the portal, let me know in the chat right now. Anywhere you want me to go. I'm going to kind of give an overview, give my thoughts of what's been happening, give my thoughts on the team needs. I think it's pretty obvious what the team needs right now, and it starts on the defensive side of the ball. You've done really well offensively in the portal. Need to get some defense going, go into some priorities, all that stuff. And now that we're getting close to that bowl game, I'm not going to jump fully into it tonight, but I do want to make one point about Marcel Reed tonight and what this bowl game might mean to him. And I kind of want to get a temperature check on Marcel from you guys, because I've seen some mixed opinions about Marcel. We'll talk about it. And then finally, I'm going to give you guys my playoff prediction. I'm going to do the full bracket top to bottom, maybe a little bit more in-depth on these first-round games we have coming up starting tomorrow with the Indiana-Notre Dame game. And then I'll give you my predictions for the first round. And I'm going to go all the way down to the champion. And right now, I only have the first round picked and the champion picked. So you're going to see me doing this on the fly. I have a graphic here we're going to try to use. I'm trying to fill it out. And then, of course, we're going to hear from you guys. The call-in link is pinned. Like I said, it'll be going a little bit later. We'll be doing the calls maybe 30 minutes from now. I want to get your thoughts on the portal so far. I want to get your confidence level on Marcel and what this bowl game might mean to him. And if you want, I want to hear your playoff prediction, and I want you to make a bracket. If you call in a correct bracket, this is shout out to Noble Guy for giving me this idea. If you get a bracket 100% correct, I will both add you to the Hall of Fame, and I will mail you a late Christmas present. So if you want a Christmas present from Drew, you call in your playoff prediction. I will mail you a present. It'll be in January. It'll be late, but I'm sure you'll still accept it, right? It'll be good, about a $20 value, won't be anything crazy, but I will mail you a Christmas present if you get a playoff bracket completely right. So before we recap the portal, before we get into the playoffs, before we talk about Marcel Reed, let's say what's up to everybody who's here today. I see all the familiar faces, starting with David Franz, cautiously optimistic about basketball, but conference play will be brutal. Yeah, there was some really encouraging stuff in that Purdue game. Mainly just the way the team was pretty just solid, didn't have these big lulls, especially in the second half, the way they closed the game out. The way that they just kind of played within themselves and they didn't get into that streak of just, quick possessions, quick drives. They actually played as a team down the stretch, and that was very encouraging. And Wade Taylor just was a steady force, and that's important. He doesn't get really streaky on us. Really encouraging stuff from the team. You love Farrell Payne. You love these bigs. I love Anderson Garcia. But like you're saying, the SEC is insane this year. Maybe the best it's ever been in college basketball. Maybe the best conference we've seen in recent history in college basketball. So it just makes the journey really tough, even though we feel really good about the team. But we got Houston Christian tomorrow, a school where I played football for 1 year. Big rivalry game for me at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Derek Jones, good to see you, man. Jay Wynn, let's go, bros. Let's get some defensive linemen and one more good wide receiver. Yeah, man, that's pretty much where it's at. A couple specifics I'll get into there, just specific positions and builds we're looking for. Got a tight end commit today. Should we be done with tight end, or should we add one more? We'll talk about it. Cooper King just waiting for baseball. Yes, it's going to be great. But like I said, I'm savoring everything for what it's worth right now. Noble Guy, we are so back. Jeb going to bed soon, but he'll stay up for a little bit for the show. Good to see you, Jeb. Play to win in here. Gig'em indeed, play to win. Good to see you. Can't believe we're saying this, but we need D-line bad. We were getting spoiled with all the Jimbo 5-star D-line. And then David actually took some words out of my mouth. They didn't all pan out like 5 stars, but it was nice to have that kind of, what's the word? It's like a safety measure. You have these bodies at least kind of in the wings just in case. It was nice just to have numbers there. And not only, it's not really a talent thing, because I think you have some good young talent in the room that we'll talk about. It's just, experience and having viable, experienced options in your rotation next year that is so scary, and some specific builds like strong side D, and we'll talk about all that. I don't know if taking that tight end means we're out of it with Claire. Claire is the, I think, tight end, all Big Ten tight end out of Purdue. I don't know. I feel like there's room to add another one. We'll talk about it. Y'all want to tune in tonight? Jeb has a whole essay on the 2024 season review. I'm not doing my review till after the bowl game. All my kind of recap stuff. I'm going to go through some of my breakout players lists. I'm going to go through my player tier list I did before the season. We're going to reflect on all of that. And I'm going to see how I did and just kind of see how the team did. Give some grades, all that stuff. I'll do that after the bowl, but Noble wants to do it tonight. We'll let him have it. Who else is in here tonight? JT Man loves the Feliz Navidad song slaps. Yeah, absolutely. We still got a shot with KC and some Alabama receivers. Sounds like it. Sounds like that KC thing is still alive if this visit comes to fruition that's supposed to start like now or tomorrow or this weekend or something. Yeah. Derek Jones wants a strong portal finish from Santa. Don't we all? Don't we all? Dindy went to South Carolina. Does he play next year? I don't know, man. He was behind the 8 ball due to injury. He's an undeniable talent, a physical force. The high school tape is undeniable. But it did seem like injury set him back on his kind of development, his trajectory. Maybe a change of scenery will be good for him, but he's a bad guy now, man. He went to a yearly opponent. He went to the heated rival. Those bastards down in South Carolina. You hate to see it. This is likely the most anticipated baseball season in A&M history. Amen, man. It's going to be so great. I can't wait to jump into it. But again, I am taking this for what it is right now. Bowl game in 8 days. HB says, can you talk about the current tight end room? Absolutely, we will. I would love to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to talk about like the way the rooms kind of stand after I get through everybody who's here. Who else? USC, bring it. He says, bring it on, man. Bring it on, says play to win. Who else is in here? Last year was the first Aggie Bowl game I didn't watch in 30 years. Not sure if I'll watch next week. Well, to compare the two, last year you had like a piecemeal coaching staff and team. You were in a coaching search. I think you had just found Elko before the game. You didn't know who was going to be back. There was a lot of stuff up in the air. Not an exciting opponent or destination. This year is a year one. I would argue the bowl game is very important to win in a year one to get to that 9 win and end on a good note, hit your developmental season and spring on a high note, and just see where some of these players at, which we'll talk about in just a second. One player in particular. Matt says he needs 1 receiver, 1 pass-catching tight end, 1 rush end, 1 big body D tackle, and maybe some other best available. Yeah, sounds about right. Maybe that's a good time to transition right into it. Let's recap what we've gotten so far in the portal. Let's get this full screen right here. All right, so obviously there's something cooking in Texas Tech. I mean, there's some sort of oil kingpin buying them a team, and they're doing really, really well in the portal. You will notice them at the number 1 spot. Pretty significantly right now over Ole Miss. Just impressive stuff from Texas Tech. Just the landscape of college football. No salary cap. No holds bar. Wild West. Texas Tech winning right now. Crazy. But let's talk about what's important here. So the name is going to destroy me. Nate Borkircher. We'll go with Borkircher. Blocking tight end. Added from Nebraska, 6th year of college football, an experienced guy who graded really well, is a blocking tight end. And you also added another blocking tight end, Mike O'Reilly, but we've talked about how Mike O'Reilly actually, in my opinion, has some pass-catching upside because of his high school tape. He was a strong pass catcher in high school. He just happened to be behind 2 senior veterans at Auburn. Who knows what Mike O'Reilly can develop into? But continuing with the theme of adding offensive players, you added the big ones, Mario Craver, Micah Hudson. Obviously, Hudson was a primetime target from day one, someone that every Aggie wanted. Mario Craver kind of became that once the options available kind of shaved down. And I think Mario Craver is another great young guy to add to your room. You're set with a very promising but young wide receiver room, the only upperclassman in that room now that Bostic transferred out. All your graduates, everyone going pro, and Cyrus Allen transferring. It's Noah Thomas as your upperclassman, and then a bunch of young guys, sophomores and freshmen, some very promising, but it is a young room. And then Jacob Zeno, we've talked about it. I would say that if you're building around Marcel Reed, Jacob Zeno was the perfect quarterback to add to the room. He was a veteran that was willing to come in and play behind a young Marcel Reed, be one play away from being the guy at A&M when you don't really have a clear pro path. If you're Zeno, you've played for UAB, you haven't been on the big stage. Now he has a chance to back up, play potentially garbage time, but honestly, just waiting in case something happens as an insurance policy is Jacob Zeno. I think that was probably the best he could do, the highest he could achieve at this point in his career. And you add, I think he's like a 7th or 8th year senior, so you add a ton of experience to the room. And then the lone defensive player you've added is Julian Humphrey, a veteran corner, played a lot of football at Georgia, but has definitely taken his fair share of lumps as a starter. But he comes to A&M more of a rotational piece because I don't know about you guys, I am pretty happy with Des Ricks and Will Lee at the corner starters. And with Julian Humphrey kind of, projecting to be a rotational guy, a sub guy, a guy at injuries, maybe play some nickel, who knows what they'll do with him, as kind of a guy they can plug where as needed, I think that's a really good floor raiser. And I think him and Javen Thomas both represent that kind of immediate floor to your corner room. If something happens, you need to give someone a spell. I think it's a really, really good addition. But I see questions about the tight end room. I want to get into it. So here's the question. Do we need to add one more? You've added 2 blocking tight ends. You lose Watson. You lose Calhoun. Those were 2 of your 3 mainstays at tight end this year. You bring back Theo Mellon-Nordstrom with experience from the previous year. And obviously you have Miller. I think he's a Purdue transfer. Didn't play this year due to injury. And Donovan Green. What do we expect from Donovan Green? So I want to look at the roster, just put the faces on the screen. Let's scroll down until we find them. And then you obviously have Coyote Armstrong, the freshman jump ball phenom coming out of high school. Who knows if he can play early? But right now, unless you're banking on a huge jump from Theo Mellon-Nordstrom, which I think he has in the chamber. I think Theo showed some promising stuff on the season. I still think you want to add one pass-catching tight end to this room. I think the experience you lose 2 mainstays, a lot of uncertainty around Donovan Green. And look, I mean, I know we're all rooting for Donovan. I know we like Donovan a lot, but there's no guarantees there, man. If we were to somehow get freshman Donovan Green back with a little bit more mental maturity added to that, being that he'll be an older man now, that would be huge for the team. But to bank on that in an offseason, I don't know. And I don't know if they get Claire, the high-profile tight end out of Purdue. I don't think that battle's done yet. I think there's still a chance there. Of course, I have to reiterate, I'm not an insider. I just reflect on what we're being told and what has happened. Look to your insiders for all that up-to-date stuff. I would argue that there's still room for one more tight end to add here. Calhoun and Watson will be out. It sounds like they'll be playing in the bowl game, I would think. Platt obviously going to Arkansas now. Don't like that, but good luck to you, sir. You have Garrett Miller in the room. You do get Carner. He was a recruit last year. I think, what do they call it, gray-shirted. He'll be on the team this year. I think you need a ready-made tight end. One more pass-catching specialist. I think if you're kind of saying, okay, we have Theo, we added a couple of blockers in the portal this year, and then you're going to rely on Green and Coyote Armstrong, I think that's taking a big risk in a system that likes to use 3 tight ends a game. So what about you guys? Do you think that you add one more guy in the portal? Yeah, you're not passing on Claire. That battle has to keep going. Good to see you, Sauron's Wrath. I'm saying you add one more in the portal. Let's go to the receiver. And hopefully it's Max Claire. That would just be fantastic. And, speaking of Purdue transfers, just real quick, Dabo, what the hell are you doing? I thought you didn't believe in the portal. Why you went on one-on-ones with us? Why you getting the defensive end out of Purdue in a head-to-head battle versus A&M? Dabo, stop. Stop doing the portal thing. We don't like it. It would have been cool if you weren't, going at our guys, but Dabo Sweeney, I forget his name, but he won the edge rusher out of Purdue in a head-to-head recruiting battle versus A&M today. Unfortunate, Dabo has arrived, apparently. Real quick on the receiver room, and then we'll get into defensive needs, of which are plenty. We talked about it. You have the youngsters, Isaiah Williams, you have Ernest Campbell, and then there's one more young guy somewhere in here, Ashton Bethel-Roman. And I think Ashton Bethel-Roman is kind of projected as the most likely guy to kind of step up and find a way into the rotation next year. You have Noah Thomas in there. If you want to keep Terry Bussey at receiver, Terry Bussey's there. So how does this rotation look right now? You would have Noah Thomas clearly starting at X, outside receiver. I think as of right now, you mark Mario Craver down as your slot receiver. I think that's just what we're looking at right now, and I think he's a viable option. I think it's good there. I'm happy taking a shot there because he's a young guy, but he has college experience in the SEC. He had big moments versus Georgia and Texas and A&M. I think he's worthy of taking a shot as a day one starter. Of course, you got to see how spring and fall go, but I think that's very likely. And I think right now you would say Bussey would be your starter at X or Z, outside receiver. Micah Hudson. Are we banking on Micah Hudson as a day one impact guy? I think that's the hope. I think there's a chance that happens, but you have to keep in mind Micah Hudson is coming off of an injury that set him behind the 8 ball in the rotation at Texas Tech. There's no guarantee he's a ready-made starter day one. I think it's a great project. It's a great ceiling elevator to the room. And hell, he could be the MVP next year. He has that in his capabilities. That's in the realm of possibilities. But to bank on that, I don't think so. As we're sitting right now, KC Concepcion is still on the table. A couple of Bama guys have come on the table. I think there's probably some guys we haven't heard about who are on the table right now. Obviously, KC Concepcion, he's kind of in that slot build. I think he's 5'10", but he does a lot on the football field. I think he's a guy you're still very happy to add despite, the pieces you've already added. I think you take what you can get. If you can get an experienced day one type of starter, a floor raiser, that'll make you feel real good. And we've heard Colin Klein talk about how he likes to use 6 or 7 receivers. Right now, let's count them out. Noah, let's just throw Bussey in there. Craver, let's throw a Hudson in there. Ashton Bethel-Roman, maybe? How y'all feel about that? And then one more guy from the field. But who knows if an Isaiah Williams can step up, if a Ernest Campbell can find a way. You have some young guys there as well. Oh, and of course, Jerome Miles, another guy like Hudson coming off of injury, significant ACL injury in high school, hasn't played much his last 2 years of high school, but obviously has all the tools you could ever hope for. Him and Hudson are kind of in that same boat to where there is a possibility they're day one impact guys, but there's also a route where it's a longer burn and maybe they're more mid-season impact guys or even not freshman impact guys. So very high level of variance with those two. All that to say, add one more veteran. Let's see what you guys are saying. We should see Bethel-Roman in the bowl game. You're going to see Isaiah Williams in the bowl game too, I would think. Who knows? I don't know if Ja'Day Walker. I think everyone's playing. I think the ones that won't be playing are Cyrus Allen because he transferred out. So there should be room for one more. Yeah, maybe it is Bethel-Roman. That's a good point. Is Donovan Green going to be relevant? I really hope so, man. That would add so much to this team. Mike is a great project, but you want a guy with more production to start, 100%. Sucks Isaiah Ward went to Oregon. Jerome Miles is funny. Apparently him and Hassan do not like each other. It's funny because he came here to A&M. Yeah, they were both going to USC now. Only one is going to USC, and he's losing all of his receivers. Anyway, that's where we stand in the receiver room. I think we can all agree, and I think it's very apparent this team wants to add one more. Let's get to some areas where you need to do a lot of work. And we all know that's the D-line. So as of right now, I would like to hear from you guys. I personally feel like we have a decent starting four next year. I mean, a good starting four. I think it has a high ceiling with a guy like DJ Hicks and Cassius Howell, both of which could be breakout players next year. And then obviously senior leader Albert Regis will be huge. And then if you run with those two, are you comfortable putting Rylan Kennedy as your starter at the other defensive end? Because you'd be going with double-edged starters there. I think some teams do it. Some teams go light there. I think the evidence with Elko would show that he likes to have a true strong side defensive end. And that's priority one in the portal for me right now. You need to get a legit run-stopping, sturdy defensive end. You need at least one next year. You have some young guys that project as that. We'll talk about them in just a second. But I think you need a ready-made defensive end and probably a ready-made edge rusher. Now, beyond that, you're going to need a couple defensive tackles to back up Hicks and Regis. Let's look at the team right now. And keep in mind, this is going to have some guys that are still on the team on the list. So, yeah, we talked about Regis, Howell, Hicks, and Kennedy. That projects as your bowl game starters. That projects as your starters next year. Solomon Williams and Kendall Jackson are two guys that could potentially enter the rotation as defensive ends next year. I think they showed some decent stuff in the spring game, obviously solid high school tapes, but they're very young, and we're going to really see them for the first time in the bowl game. So this will be a very high priority for watching and trying to project next year's team. Check out Solomon Williams, check out Kendall Jackson, number 30 and number 42, respectively. Strong side guy. Solomon Williams is 250 pounds. Kendall Jackson is 265. That's what you need at that strong side defensive end. You need big, sturdy guys. And I'm not asking for a Nick Scorton right here. I'm not asking for a DeMarvin Leal. We don't need a 290-pounder necessarily. We don't have that. If you can add one in the portal, great. But I just need a little bit more girth out there, a little bit more sturdiness out there. And I think these guys have that upside. Interior-wise, you're needed. I think the perfect model for what this team needs to add is Rodas Johnson. I think if you could add a Rodas Johnson or two, a couple Johnsons to this team, I think you'd be feeling really, really good about your situation there because you have your starters, but you got to be 4 deep at defensive line. And then maybe Dalen Evans, high-profile guy coming in injured, maybe he can step up and find a place in the rotation next year. I would argue he's a little bit undersized to play defensive tackle, but a year in the weight room, year plus in the weight room, he could be there. And then we've talked about how the incoming freshman class, I think some of those guys have a chance to play early. So if you could add at least 1 defensive tackle, but probably 2, with experience, not necessarily high-profile experience, but with some games played, with some productivity, like a Rodas Johnson, you're good there. So we're looking at 2 D tackles, strong side end, and then 1 more defensive end. So I'm looking at bare minimum 4 defensive linemen to be added to this team. Beyond that, I'm good with whatever this team does. I think if you hit your needs, you have enough talent, even in the corner room, even in the safety room. I think there's enough bodies there to have a great competition to see if some improvement next year. I feel really, really good about the linebacker core. Not only the guys production-wise you have returning, but I feel really good about Jernigan and Lockhart as your linebackers of the future. Really, really good about those guys. You have Noah Mikael, who, he's also great for our future. I feel so good about that linebacker room. I know I'm in the minority there. I know a lot of Aggies are asking for a linebacker, and I think there's an argument to be made that you add a senior guy with experience who wants to get into the rotation. I think that's fine to add. But as far as finding a bunch of bodies out of this linebacker room, I think you're good. I think you did your work at corner. I think if Tyreek Chappelle comes back, you feel good at nickel. You have Bravion Rogers going to be a junior this year. In safety, man, you can add one. You can add one to push the room. But again, personnel-wise, I really like Dalton Brooks. Bryce Anderson will be back. Marcus Radcliffe will be back. You still have Jared Kerr on the team. I don't know what happened to him this year. I think you have some young freshmen coming up. Miles Davis really showed out whenever he had an opportunity. I still feel good in the safety room, but like linebacker, if you want to add one to the room, I would put safety probably a tick above linebacker in the priority room. Now, here's one that I get all the time. I hear a lot of Aggies asking for a bruising running back. In case something happens to Le'Veon Moss, you're down-to-down guy. You need another big guy to add to that room. I think it's okay to do that. I don't think you need to. I think you added 2 freshman running backs. I think freshman running backs can play, especially when you have 3 at the top in the room, the stable that we knew of this year, hopefully healthy next year, with Ruben Owens back and Amari Daniels back. I feel good about that trio, and I feel good about your depth of 2 freshmen. Now, if you wanted to add one guy, again, like safety, more like linebacker, because I think safety there's more of an argument to add there, I think you can add one. But it does not sound like it's a priority of this team. So what did I miss? Did I hit everything? I think O-line is set. I think Trey Zune sounds like he'll probably be back next year. We need to get the official announcement. I think Albert Regis will be back next year. We probably need to hear an official announcement just because they are draft eligible. There is a path for guys like that. I would really think Regis is back. Le'Veon Moss, I think he'll be back next year. Where are you guys at? Let's check. Yeah, DJ Sanders. I think DJ Sanders, redshirt sophomore in the house. Yeah, I think DJ Sanders has a path to play. I think any of those freshman defensive tackles you added, they have a chance to crack the rotation. I don't think you would want to rely on them as starters or as getting any kind of majority of reps, but I would feel pretty decent about them cracking the tail end of that rotation. Let's look real quick at the where is it? I want to pull up the recruiting class just so we can show these young guys. I like to pull a face up with it. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, you have DJ Sanders, early playing time potential. Lamont Rogers, I mean, you don't need a tackle to play early, but I think he has the size and the high school tape to play early if needed. Sounds like you're getting your depth at right tackle back. Maybe Lamont Rogers is our left tackle of the future. But then the underrated, where is he? Oh my goodness. Underrated Chase Sims, who surged in the recruiting rankings late. I think he has a potential path to crack rotation stuff early. And we even heard Coach Bateman say that he thinks Landon Brink can be an early playing time guy. So, again, if you have to play these freshmen at the tail end of the rotation, I think you're okay there. I don't think it's the end of the world playing freshmen in that capacity. All right. Yeah, World's going to Oregon. When I get in the queue, I can't hear you for some reason. Let me jump in there. All right. Let's check in with the chat one time, and I want to do a quick spiel. Get your thoughts on Marcel Reed. I've been getting some mixed results on Marcel. Let's see what else is in here. Rylan Kennedy will probably be a stud, maybe not for 3 downs though. That's exactly right. I think the number one priority with this defense where you need a starter is strong side defensive end. I think Cassius Howell is poised for a breakout year next year. He might have been the most consistent D end you had this year. Maybe not the best upside between Scorton and Stewart, but consistent third down threat. He was pretty damn elite in his role, which is what we thought he would be, and I think he panned out there. The motor, just the willingness to chase, the speed. I really like Cassius Howell. I think big stuff's ahead for him. But yeah, I don't know if you want to start double edge build on your defensive line next year. I don't know if that's the best path. We need big boys in the middle. We lost a lot of those. We had crazy talent at D-line this year that did not produce much the last 4 games. Give me hungry guy any day moving forward. Yeah, fair. Doesn't make any sense why we lost so many D linemen with both Shamars and Nick leaving. It's I don't know, man. It's hard to say what a Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy was going to be here. It's hard to. I mean, maybe he knew there was a path where he could get passed up. I don't know. Play to wins and get on a call, try to make it back on and carry on. If you can make it, that'd be great. You don't have to though. You always call in. I appreciate your calls. So if you need an off night, I totally understand. Looking for 2 DTs and 2 nose guards. You have to be very deep there. Oh, you're looking for 4 there. Wow. I'm saying 2 because I trust some of the young guys in there. Sanders is what Nolan was supposed to be. Maybe a quick twitch guy. I think Nolan was probably more powerful, but I think Sanders is longer, bigger, has really good feet for his size. Sanders will probably play right away. Rink probably starts at strong side defensive end. Interesting thought there. Rink is a freak athlete. Played tight end in 7-on-7s. Who else? Back of the queue tonight. That's totally fine. We saw Marcel get better as a passer this year. Excited for his potential. All right, quick point on the bowl game. Again, we're not going deep into the bowl game tonight. Just a quick point I want to make, just setting some groundwork, because we have a whole week to talk about it next week. So, bowl games. Take them or leave them, right? I mean, with the playoff era, with the opt-out era, the transfer portal era, a lot of times you don't see teams full shakes in bowl games, but it sounds like you're going to get the full go A&M in the bowl game. There's a lot to talk about with the team. We mentioned some young guys you're going to see in the bowl game. I want to talk about Marcel Reed. How important do you think this bowl game is for Marcel? Is this bowl game the kind of opportunity for Marcel Reed that could kind of change your outlook going into the year next year? Is it that level of importance for him to see how these extra bowl weeks of practice, being quarterback 1, how these experiences that he's stacked up, what they result in when the team has a couple weeks to prep for an opponent? I think that if Marcel goes and shows out in the bowl game, minus a few weapons at receiver that he'll add next year, most likely, I'm almost willing to say that would give me more confidence leaning towards the ceiling of A&M season next year, because I think it's such an important, obviously, development for this team's offseason is Marcel Reed's development, because I think you're going to have a good offensive line. You're going to feel really good about your running back room. I think we're going to feel as good as we felt in years about the receiver room. Potentially tight end. You got to add one more, but I think the pieces on this offense are really starting to fit, and it's really going to come down to Marcel Reed's ability to have poise in the pocket, read defenses, patience, and playing within himself. So I actually put a poll out there, and I want to hear from you guys on this front. With Marcel Reed's development being such a crucial aspect to next year's success, could his bowl game performance sway your 2025 season outlook? Yes, let's see where he is. No, it's just one game. And while it is just one game, I think it's a pretty big indicator of where he's going to stand going into spring for several reasons. First of all, you think about Marcel Reed this year, didn't practice spring with the ones. That was Connor Wigman, not 100% Connor, just out there with the ones, going through the reps in this new offense. Fall camp, Connor Wigman was the ones, running with the ones, the whole team, running the playbook with the first team offense. And then Marcel Reed gets slotted in week 3 of the season, gets taken out. Connor's running with the ones again. It's not till the LSU game where Marcel Reed takes it for good. Now you're getting several weeks of bowl practice. You're getting a full workload of practice with Marcel as the guy. I want to see where he's at. And if it's really bad, I'll feel a little bit worse about the team. If he's really good, I'll feel better. So let's see what you guys are saying there. I do also want to pull up a quote from Marcel, because part of the reason that I'm high on Marcel, and I do think he's a worthy quarterback to build around in the future, he has tools, he has arm strength, arm talent, he can throw on the run, and he has speed. The speed and the running ability kind of, I think, raises the ceiling to what you are with a guy like Marcel Reed as your quarterback. But to me, it's the mindset. Coach's son, every time this guy takes to the press conference, he says what you'd want to hear. Let's play this clip I got from him.
Work on anything particular you're going to.
This is what he wants to work on in the bowl game.
Just taking what they give me. Don't try to force anything. Taking what they give me, and try to stay ahead of the sticks and move the sticks when we need to. Convert on third downs. Really just stay calm in the pocket and don't get too antsy. I feel like sometimes I leave too early and cause a little bit of disruption for myself and really the whole scheme of the play. But this game I'm gonna be relaxed, calm, and go out and play my game.
So that's exactly right. It's just coaches are doing their job, but it's great to hear the quarterback self-assess exactly what we've been talking about and seeing in his play. He plays sped up at times. He doesn't progress through his reads at times. He tries to escape too quickly at times instead of trusting his offensive line and trusting his route runners. While the A&M receiver core wasn't perfect this year, I think they had separation more times than what Marcel Reed completed passes against. I think there was stuff there that he missed because he gets sped up in the pocket. And it's just great to hear him say that. It's great to hear him every time he talks in a presser, and I think his tools combined with his mindset is what gives me confidence in Reed going forward. I want to hear your confidence levels in Reed. If you could throw that in the chat right now, that'd be great. Let's catch up with the chat one more time. I'm going to give you my playoff prediction. I'm going to go really quickly through it because I know we want to get into the calls. Yeah, let's see what you guys are saying. I think Stewart should have come back, says Jeb. I know Jeb was on that train. There's a path for it, but he's going to combine extremely well. He has a good enough college tape, and the physicals are off the chart. He's also going to interview really well. Audio on Q works good. Stewart's combine will guarantee first round. Is it guaranteed first round? I think like top 3 round. Guaranteed first? Wow. The whiffs on the D-line are concerning. We haven't really had a priority D tackle that we've whiffed on, but the DN stuff is kind of getting annoying. Yeah. LSU beat us for the guy from Florida, Pyburn, right? And then Dabo just beat us for the Purdue guy. D-line's going to be thin at the bowl. That's about it. I think with more weapons and Mossbeck, he should be much improved. Yeah. Noble says, I just need to see if he's cleaned up mistakes, turnovers. It'll make me feel better about the floor of our quarterback room next year. Ability to read defense and work through progressions would be a sign of improvement. Yeah, absolutely. I want to see patience and just calmness in the pocket. Running when he needs to. That's like your fourth read or whatever it is. That's your second read, depending on the play. Don't let that ability to run the football trump what you're supposed to do on a given play, because I felt like that happened a lot for Reed. Smash that like button or you'll get coal in your stocking. Yeah, Noble, thank you. If you could hit the likes, guys, that'd be great. Troy, glad you made it, man. Good to see you. Reed probably played earlier than expected. I think he'll improve with a season under his belt now. Yeah, for sure. The wide receiver room did better this year than I thought they would. You must have had a low bar. Productivity-wise, it wasn't there. I did think they had some stuff that was available that the quarterbacks didn't hit. I'm really confident. Jeb's really confident in Marcel. I love to hear it. Cooper's a 7.5 out of 10 for Reed. Duke says, I hope Reed spends a lot of time with the quarterback whisperer in the offseason. Yeah. Braylon Russell at fullback. It's not a bad target, but his wishy-washiness is kind of weird. I think he's like committed, decommitted in high school. Now he's entered the portal, left the portal, re-entered the portal. That's the scary part. Of course, we lost a guy to Dabo. I know, man. I'm so pissed off at Dabo. All right. Let's see how this goes. I am going to pick my playoff winners. I have my national champion in my head. I have my first round winners in my head. I'm going to go through it quickly. Keep in mind, guys, I'm an A&M specialist. I am not a hardcore follower of any of these teams. I don't know ball very well about other programs that aren't A&M. So I'm going to do my best here, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong. So I'm going to pull up the playoff bracket. I'm going to try to go as quickly as possible, as quickly as I can, because I know we have callers waiting. We'll just go long tonight. Who cares? The season's almost over. We got to savor this stuff. All right, let's go in order in which the games are played. It starts with Notre Dame, Indiana. We'll just go through it. Penn State at home versus SMU. Tennessee at Ohio State, primetime game Saturday night. It's the best round one matchup. And then Clemson at Texas. I am inclined to pick all of the home teams in round one. First of all, these are 4 amazing home venues. These are all intimidating home venues. These are all top tier, I mean, not top tier, but, upper echelon home environments in college football. When we talk about capacity, when we talk about history, it's all there. Maybe Texas isn't the loudest. Maybe Notre Dame isn't the biggest. But, these are great, great home venues. Tough place to win at for all of these visiting teams. Clemson, Tennessee, SMU, Indiana. It's also cold at a lot of these places. Ohio State, tennis is going to be in the 20s there, I think. Tennessee's traveling, obviously, from Tennessee. That's unusual for Tennessee. Doesn't practice in that weather. Doesn't play games in that weather. Most of those kids did not grow up playing in that weather. Same thing for Penn State, SMU, Notre Dame, Indiana, Texas, Clemson. Not the same case. Let's start Indiana, Notre Dame. So I really, really want to pick a first-round upset. And if I were to do it, this would be the game. I think it's very safe to say that this is both teams' toughest game yet on the schedule. I think playing A&M in week 1, new staff. I know we had Moss at the time. We obviously weren't what we were at our best in that game. I think this game in a playoff atmosphere is a step above what they played versus A&M. This, to me, comes down to Indiana's ability to force Notre Dame to pass the ball. Notre Dame is an elite rushing team with Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love, and Riley Leonard himself. Riley Leonard, really good quarterback, really quick decision maker, but he's really a one read and go kind of quarterback. If they can make him sit there and pass the ball, that gives him the best chance to slow down Notre Dame's offense. I do think Indiana will have some success moving the ball against Notre Dame, but Notre Dame is a solid defense. Indiana, last time they played an elite defense in Ohio State, maybe the best defense in the country though, they had like 130 total yards. So can they get that closer to 300 yards on the road at Notre Dame? I don't know about that. I don't know that they can do that. Because of that, this is the game that I think Indiana has what it takes to win this game. I really do, but I'm going to go with Notre Dame in this one. Let's see how quickly I can do this. This is going to take a while. I'm just going to put an ND here. I'm going Notre Dame in this one, guys. I think the three-headed monster of running, they're not a great passing team, but Indiana's actually a solid run-stopping team. I just think being at home, I think the defense prevails with that recent indicator of Indiana at Ohio State. I think Notre Dame wins it. That's the one I feel least confident about picking right now. Penn State, SMU. Look, I have a special place in my heart for SMU. All you guys who have been on the channel for a while know that we had an off-season dynasty with SMU, our last dynasty in NCAA 14. Shout out to Void Slopintosh. He is actually a starting linebacker for them. His name is not Slopintosh, but he is there. Again, Penn State, their offense has just gotten better over the course of the year. Their best offensive performance was versus Oregon in their Big Ten championship a couple of weeks ago. Just a more physical team, better offensive line, better in the trenches on both sides of the ball. But SMU has a really dynamic quarterback in Jennings, man. And Penn State has lost some big games under James Franklin. I'm still going with Penn State in this one. I just think the physicality of Penn State can slow this game down, lean on Tyler Warren, lean on their running back tandem. Drew Aller's definitely good enough. He's not a great runner, but he can move the ball. They don't have a great receiver core. I just think that it's just a sturdier football team that control the game. I'm going Penn State. I'm going to go 34-27. In the Indiana-Notre Dame game, what did I have on that one? I had Notre Dame 27-24, closest game in the first round, I think. But I have Penn State winning this game, not covering. I think the spread is 8.5 here. So we're going to go Penn State here. How am I doing? I am struggling, but we are getting through this. Penn State. Tennessee, Ohio State. Let's go in order. The next game will be 3 o'clock on Saturday. Clemson at Texas. Oh, man. You know, obviously we're all going to go for Clemson in this game. It's just how it is. We don't want to see Texas win a natty. They already beat us. They already got to the SEC championship. We don't want to see any more. Quinn Ewers has struggled. Quinn Ewers has not been himself since going down with injury midseason. I don't know if it's a nagging injury. I don't know if it's just him regressing due to missing time. Who knows what it is. Cade Klubnik, solid quarterback. They have a solid receiver core. They have a solid O-line. But Texas, really good defense. Like, we can acknowledge that now, right? Like, we experienced it. We know what this defensive front is. We know what that secondary is. I think in all of Clemson's biggest games this year, they have not scored the ball particularly well. Let's see. Like I said, we're going through this in real time together. Yeah, 3 points versus Georgia, 14 versus South Carolina. I think by far the best two defenses they faced this year. Can they get over that versus Texas? Can they get to 20 versus Texas? I don't think so. I think Texas has a better defense than South Carolina, not by a lot, but I think it's better than South Carolina. Maybe comparable to Georgia, maybe better than Georgia, probably not. Georgia beat them twice. Let's just say Georgia's better than them. But Texas has a damn good defense. I would think Clemson at most can score 24 points in this game. And I think Texas can score more than that against Clemson's kind of inconsistent defense. So unfortunately, we got to go Texas in this one, guys. I hate to do it. I would love to say I see a Clemson run happening here, but I don't do it. I'm not doing it. I'm trying to win here. I'm trying to be right about every game. So far, no upsets. 8th seed versus 9th seed. Tennessee at Ohio State. Is the Tennessee takeover going to happen? Is it going to be Neyland Stadium North? I don't know. It sounds like they're trying to make that happen. Oh, man. So Tennessee, what are their flaws this year? I think pretty solid defense. Quarterback has not been what their hopes and dreams were in Nico Iamaleava. Been solid. They don't have the receiver weapons. They have an elite running back, an elite running game. They are built to run the football. Ohio State, I mean, what happened versus Michigan? They didn't get receivers involved. Their offense didn't get going at all. They lost a slugfest of a game to their rival, inferior opponent in Michigan this year. Really weird situation for them losing that at home. I just don't think Tennessee has the offensive firepower to do what they need to do against an Ohio State defense that might be the best defense in the country. Weapons all over the place. They can get after the quarterback. I just don't see Tennessee's offense being dynamic enough to outpace Ohio State. So I'm going to go Ohio State here. I'm picking all the home games in round one, and I know that's an exercise. It's going to be a disaster. I'm going to be wrong about it. I just don't feel good about it, but I have to do it. I just think Ohio State outclasses Tennessee pretty much everywhere except for maybe quarterback upside. But Nico has not been a consistent force like we thought he could be. I think that capability is there. But again, no, doesn't have the upper echelon weapons at receiver. I'm going Texas, Ohio State. Let's go Texas wins this one. I'll keep it close. We'll go 31-24. I think I said 31-24 for this game. 34-27 here. I'm going to go like a 31-21 Ohio State over Tennessee. And then I have 27-24 Notre Dame here. Now, Texas is winning this game. I mean, I'm happy about Scattaboo. It's a great story. Texas is beating Arizona State. Ohio State and Oregon, the rematch. I think Oregon's too good, man. When I watched them play versus Penn State, that team looked like the fastest team I had seen all season, the most efficient offense I've seen all season. Solid defense. I know Penn State scored a lot on them, but I still think they have the pieces necessary to win this game on defense. They've done it before. I'm going Oregon here. I think in the rematch, Oregon wins, though it's not a confident pick. I think Ohio State can get it done. I'm going Oregon here. I mean, yeah, Ashton Genty's another great story. It's just not happening. Penn State, what a path, man. What a path to the semifinals for Penn State. They get through SMU. They have Boise State waiting for them. What a great path they have. This one is very interesting to me, Notre Dame and Georgia. So if you haven't heard, Carson Beck is out for the playoffs. It got announced today. He will not be playing. Gunnar Stockton's the quarterback. And while they did have that Patrick Ewing effect at first when Gunnar Stockton went into the game versus Texas, the offense looked like it gained a spark. Things went downhill late in the game. He threw an interception that could have been a pick six that could have lost that game for them. And I don't think Georgia should be feeling very good about their offensive situation at all, especially against the defense, the level of Notre Dame's defense. But Georgia has a Kirby Smart coach defense. One of the best schematic defenses in the country, the way they can be so multiple so quickly. Not the best maybe personnel defense we've seen, but it's a Kirby Smart coach defense. It's an upper echelon defense. I'm going to go with Notre Dame to upset Georgia, though. That's crazy. I did that. I have Notre Dame upsetting Georgia, guys. I don't know how I feel about that. I just feel like Georgia's offense is really in a bad spot right now. I don't think Gunnar is the answer here. Texas versus Oregon. I'm just going to tell you guys. I have Oregon winning this game. I think Oregon has the offense to score on this Texas defense. I think Oregon has the defense to slow down a Texas offense who has not hit anywhere near its ceiling on the year. This is a game that Texas is fully capable of winning if this offense catches a spark in the playoff. But we haven't seen it yet. We've seen Texas against their toughest opposition, Georgia, twice this year. It has not looked good. I got Oregon in the championship game. And then we have Penn State, Notre Dame on the other side of the bracket. What is going on here? I have Notre Dame winning this one. So I have Oregon, Notre Dame playing for the championship, and I think that's an easy Oregon win. I think Oregon outclasses Notre Dame, and I have Oregon win the damn thing. I've felt this way for a couple of weeks now. I've known Oregon's going to be my pick. I just needed to see how I would get there. This is the tough one right here. This Indiana-Notre Dame game, this could definitely change my prediction here. If Indiana is able to go move the ball consistently on Notre Dame to where I feel like Georgia will have a chance to actually score on that defense, not a great run-stopping defense in Notre Dame. They've been a really good pass-stopping defense. I'll feel differently about it. But right now, I'm feeling like I'm going to see the Notre Dame that makes me feel good about this situation right here. And then Penn State just has a nice path. If they get through SMU, they're all the way down to the semis. This is where I'm going with it, guys. Let's see what you guys are saying. That was daunting for me. I was not looking forward to that much. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. Will Ruben Owens play in the bowl game? Absolutely, he will. 100%. That's I think. I have not heard a reason that he wouldn't. Healthy enough to kind of get into the game versus Texas. Yeah, several weeks out from that. I got Ruben Owens playing in the game. If Marcel's a B-plus quarterback next year, that'd be fantastic. That'd be great. That would just open everything up. Yeah, Noah Thomas should almost positively be back next year. He's hosting, I think he's hosting recruits, transfer portal guys right now. Noah Thomas should be a starting receiver next year. And he had a solid year this year, and I think he'd be even better next year. SMU all the way, I wish. If I were to pick a team that I want to win this thing, I think it's SMU or Notre Dame. I think those are the two teams I feel the most kinship towards right now, for whatever reason. I think I know the reasons. But anyway, yeah, Rubens should be playing. You picked SMU to win at Penn State. That'd be huge, man. That'd be insane, because then SMU could beat Boise State, and then SMU's in the semis versus potentially Notre Dame. I mean, yeah. It's a shorter distance from Knoxville to Columbus than Knoxville to Baton Rouge. That's crazy. You got Oregon winning it all? Yeah. I hope so too, Mr. A&M. It's cold. Yeah, right. It does get pretty cold in Tennessee. That's a good point. I probably underrated that. Good night, Jeb. Slop and toss shout out. Always appreciate it. We got to get it out there. 100%. Gravity will win. Stars and recruiting will win, especially in the line of scrimmage. That's why I have Penn State winning the game versus SMU. 50% chance that Indiana gets wrecked. I don't think they get wrecked, man. I think they're a sneaky good team. What happened versus Ohio State? Yes, they got shut down, but there were also some unfortunate, like the bobbled punt. There were some things that happened in that game that could have made the game closer. But their offensive production in that game is an indicator for me. That's my playoff bracket besides the Penn State thing. Great. Thanks, Melissa Henry. I appreciate that, Melissa. Notre Dame plus 1,100 isn't crazy at all. I don't think so either. I think it's on the table. I think they're a really well-coached team. I think they have, stars where you want them. They've just not been a great passing or run-stopping team. But I think they can get by versus Indiana. It's just and maybe even Georgia, because Georgia has a weird quarterback situation. There is good money there, redshirt sophomore, 100%. Last first-time champion was 96 Florida. Huh. That's going to change this year, I think. All right. Let's get into the calls. I know I was long-winded there. Texas should play Arch. Yeah, I've heard Clemson fans say they want to make it a rough day for Quinn, but not too rough to where they're playing Arch Manning. It's a good point because he has that running dynamic, and Quinn's just been inconsistent. All right. Sorry to make everybody wait. Let's get right into it. Transfer portal enthusiast. You're on with Drew. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Oh, my goodness. Why do you feel good?
I think you know why, and I think I know why you're feeling bad.
Is this our resident Clemson Tiger fan?
It is.
Get your boy Dabo. What the hell is he doing? Why is he getting players, and why does it start with a head-to-head competition versus A&M? What the hell is going on here? I thought we were working in God's name, image, and likeness, not NIL, not transfer portal. What happened to the old Dabo? I hate the new Dabo.
It's God's NIL now.
Oh, my goodness. I guess it is. It's God's transfer portal. All right, yeah, Glow, how you feeling about that situation? How you feeling about your game versus Texas? Yada, yada. I know. You're feeling good.
I'm feeling good about the transfers portal situation. Not so great about the Texas game.
Oh, you're being honest about it. Yeah, it's a tough matchup, man. That defense, I mean, your offense is, I think, exceeded your expectations? Would that be safe to say?
They're good against bad teams, and they're bad
Yeah.
against good teams.
That's what I just
I
talked
don't know.
about. Yeah, yeah, it's a good point. And look, Texas's offense has been shaky. Your defense, it's not bad. It's not a great defense. I mean, what do you feel? That side of the ball is very intriguing to me.
Which one, our defense and their offense?
Yeah, yeah,
I think we can slow them down. I think we have the defensive line that can get a lot of pressure on Quinn. I'm not really that worried about Texas's offense, to be honest. I'm worried about our defense kind of just getting worn down because our offense is playing bad.
yeah. That's the thing, man. I mean, their defense is stout. It has pieces everywhere you'd want it. I mean, what % chance would you give yourself of winning this game realistically?
20%.
20% chance.
Yeah.
Well, how about the rest of the first round? Who do you have?
Who do I have winning the whole thing? I think Oregon's gonna win, like you said.
Yeah, yeah.
I think if Gunner it's tough. I think if Gunner Stockton is like these a few weeks of practice, and he comes out and he's an elite player, then I think Georgia will win.
Yeah.
I think it's really contingent on Gunner Stockton to me.
He's a crucial player in this playoff. I mean, we saw a few drives where their offense looked different with him out there.
Yeah.
But I think that's just the spark that happens when you have a new guy come in. Everyone kind of elevates a little bit, sense of urgency. But then he almost blew the game.
Yeah, I feel like Oregon's the safe pick for me.
That's what I'm going with. I'm going with Oregon. Who do you have in Tennessee, Ohio State?
God, it's so hard because Ryan Day is just kind of a choker.
Yeah.
And I feel like if he loses this game, he's out.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to get the team up and they're going to win. I don't trust Nico at all. He's not impressed me at all.
Yeah. Well, I think while you're here, the Aggies would love to hear, what is Clemson's path to victory? Then I'll let you go.
Wow. Path to victory. Well, hopefully, you guys really didn't give us a lot on film to help us out.
Sorry about that.
Force
Force red zone turnovers. They're apparently prone to that.
I think for us, it's just going to be slowing down the run, which we've been inconsistent at that. I think making Quinn throw the ball, and we're going to have to – I think we're going to have to go north to south with the ball because we have some good receivers, and when we've thrown the ball downfield, good things happen, but we have a tendency to get conservative.
Yeah, man. If they get a running game going, that's kind of like the X factor of their offense the second half of the year. If y'all can slow that down, like you said, force Quinn. But the thing is, you don't want to make Quinn look too bad and get Arch in the game. That's kind of the careful dance you're going to want to play there. But all right, man. Any closing thoughts? I appreciate the call from a Clemson fan.
I not really. I know A&M Nation will be behind us, so hopefully we can get it done.
Yes, we will be. We'll be going for Clemson. I'm expecting the worst, but hoping for the best. But all right, man. Enjoy the game.
All right. Talk to you later.
Later. All right. It's good to get a opposing fan in there, a Clemson fan in there, even though they have that one up on us today, getting the Purdue defensive end to commit. Let's check in with the chat, then we'll get right into Noble Guy. If Reed can develop into a high 50s to 60% chance, he stands a good chance. I mean, I want to get greedy and say he's in the mid to high 60s next year. I mean, that would be amazing. I mean, I think he has it in him, man. He needs an off season. He needs a spring. He needs a fall camp as the guy. Get chemistry with the new receiver core. Get chemistry with Noah Thomas, probably going to be his best weapon. His most consistent, I think, just pass catcher. Right now, it seems like it'll still be Noah. I think a spring and a fall camp for Reed will be huge. What up, Ronnie Barker? Good to see you in here, man. Texas should play Arch. Don't say it. Don't give him any ideas. They're going to have the Arch package ready. All right. I know he's been itching to get on. We got Noble Guy. How you feeling, Noble? I think Noble might still be on the work call. All right. We'll get Noble in a second. All right, guys. It's the Matthew Dawson of the Redshirt Sophomore Podcast. What's going on, Matthew Dawson? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right, dude. Just watching some Sam Houston, Georgia Southern.
Oh, nice.
Bowl action.
Enjoying some bowl action. Hell yeah, man. Well, how you feeling about portal, playoff, wherever you want to go with it? Where do you want to start?
I won't take up too much of your time because I know there's probably a ton of people that want to, call in. So I won't take that away from them. But I will say, Borkshire is a solid tight end, dude. I don't know, how much people know about him. But, he gets out of there, right, because Nebraska's got this affinity for Thomas Fidone. They got that highly rated tight end / receiver, convert, whatever, and they got another guy there. It's just a deep tight end room. Borkashire was number 2. He wasn't a very highly rated recruited guy,
Yeah.
but he's won several like team awards. He's just a good guy, looking to go somewhere to just get some playing time. And I don't know. I think he could have found it here. I'm not sure he's the elite receiver. I know you talked about Mike O'Reilly having more upside in that capacity. I'd probably agree with you there, but I do think like before the season I was not very high on Thomas Fidone. Like Nebraska's tight end.
Yeah.
But I think he definitely surprised me in Borkashire. Because like what happened was like 2 years ago, Fidone, the season before this one, Fidone played a lot of slot receiver. And you saw Borkashire playing almost exclusively inline tight end. So that's why Fidone got more snaps that way. But like this year, Fidone was playing more inline tight end. He did a really good job there, especially blocking. So kind of ate away some snaps for Borkashire there. But I do think Borkashire is like very solid. I think he's very solid. I thought he was like a pretty solid get. I was pretty excited when I saw his name pop up.
Yeah, for whatever it's worth, he graded 65 on run block, or as a blocker, I think, by PFF, and I think that would have been the highest on our team for tight ends this year. I mean,
absolutely.
Solid guy. I mean, could he project into that Calhoun role next year, or maybe even more than that? It's a crowded room. I would say unproven, but crowded room.
I'd say the floor would be the Calhoun role. I
Really?
think he can definitely make his way in the lineup. He probably won't start. Okay, like we'll get that out of the way, but I do think you talked about it, right? Needing this tight end, right? Maybe another one in the portal. You know, we'll see. But I do think he was a good get versus some of the other tight end options that were available that are reasonable, or because it's hard to get tight ends to come, be a depth piece, or compete for. A lot of tight ends go in the portal, especially like the lower level guys. They go places to start.
Yeah,
he's not a lower level guy, but he's waited his turn. He's like a 4th-year guy that has been there, done that. Was the lowly rated recruit, worked his way up, so he's deserved an opportunity to prove himself somewhere else. But
yeah, it sounds like a guy that probably wouldn't have made his way here if he wasn't given an opportunity for playing time with being last year of eligibility and everything. I think it is his 6th year. I would assume it is. But rounding out the tight end room, what does your starting lineup look like right now? I think we've talked about it. You need to add one more, most likely. It's obviously Theo Mellon-Orstrom, but Klein uses 3 tight ends. Borkashire, does Keody Armstrong have a role early? What do you make of the room?
Yeah, Armstrong could definitely have a role early. I don't know what exactly, because like if you watch him in high school too, he played a lot of like receiver too. He's a really interesting body, and I think I wonder if the coaching staff told him that he'd play early based on like the tight end depth there. But we saw we've seen tight ends do interesting things in Colin Klein's offenses. So just what you saw this year doesn't necessarily mean like that's exactly how he's going to use tight ends in the future. It's a lot going to be based on personnel, and getting Armstrong's very unique, and that he's kind of like a receiver almost, just like his frame and his speed and athleticism. But
I feel like the ceiling, like the absolute ceiling dream is like a Kyle Pitts kind of guy. Like if it all pans out and it's perfect, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe he can develop some more girth than Pitts even did. Who knows? He's so young right now, and he has a great high school tape. And then who knows what happens with Donovan Green? It's such a wild card. It was a rough season for him, but where else you looking in the portal? Sounds like you got to add one more receiver. Are you concerned about D-line yet?
Yeah. You definitely missed on more than a few guys on the defensive line. Like more than a few. And I know this coaching staff really believes in this class coming in. This freshman class, they like them a lot. They really do. And
good reason.
It's very evident when Mike Elko talks about them. He's very high on a lot of these guys, but like in terms of like early contributors, like you're looking at Sanders, right? Maybe Marco Jones, but he's still a little bit raw, in terms of like a stand-up edge rule. And like you talked about earlier, like you kind of have your stand-up edges, in terms of at least like the third down, pass rushing type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a guy like Jack Pyburn would have been nice. I think Uman Mielin would have been like kind of gravy. I think you got some guys. Like I think Rylan Kennedy's freaking awesome, dude. And I think that Princewell would have kind of filled that same role a little bit. So
sure,
I'm not as upset missing on him, but definitely Yeah, to me, it's a definite concern.
Strong side D end is a concern. You need a run stopper. You need someone sturdy there. I mean, I guess I'll get your temperature on. I'm gonna blank on names here. The young guys we have in the room, Solomon Williams and Kendall Jackson. I mean, is there a path for these guys if we have to? It sounds like they're gonna have a role.
Yeah, it's early in the portal window. I mean, we got Rodis Johnson. Do we get him in the spring portal window? I mean, like you can.
I think
find
we
guys.
got all of our mainstays in January, but the window opened later last year, I believe.
Yeah, so I think you can find like replacement level D line in the spring portal window, but I don't know if you're gonna find SEC level defensive ends, outside of this month right now, and it feels like, it just feels like you missed
Yeah.
early on a lot of guys, and it stinks, it really does. But yeah, like you said, some of those young guys they're probably gonna have to step up. We'll see who it is. Like, is it gonna be Kendall Jackson? Is it gonna be Solomon Williams? I don't know. Samu's out. I'm not necessarily upset about that one. I think
Yeah, same.
you're pretty solid there.
Hey,
So
this might be the big Drew Beltran opportunity, man. This
Yeah,
might be his
hey.
time. He had a
Hey.
solid spring a couple of years ago.
Hey, who knows?
Who knows, man? We have some needs there. But yeah, I mean, DJ Sanders. I mean, Bateman said that Rink has a path to early playing time. We'll see. I don't know. But you don't want to have to rely on that.
He's a unique body. I don't know what he would play like. Because I don't know how pressing of a need. I guess like you can never not have enough deep 3-techs,
Yeah.
or do you have certain personnels where he's playing 5-tech because he certainly has
Right. Someone was saying that. Yeah.
athleticism. He has the athleticism for that for sure. So I don't know. Definitely am like not as I know people talk about Mike Elko's secondary being disappointing this year, but like if you've looked at, just go back and look at every single defense he's like ever coached, right? Like his second year,
Yeah.
you see immediate improvement in the secondary, no matter where he's been. Bowling Green, Wake Forest, Duke, whatever it is. Texas A&M, his first year in the secondary was terrible. It quite frankly was not good. And then they had a couple steps up every single year. So I'm not so worried about that. And it's a young talent. You know the deal. You know how I feel about that secondary. So
Yeah, man. I feel the same way. I know there's disappointing finish, especially by the safeties, but Bryce Anderson had a down year moving back to safety. But the personnel there, like, you give them a chance, man. It's a group worth grinding with and getting into that second year of Mike Elko's system. And you added depth to your corner room. Hopefully Tyreek Chappelle comes back. You're complete in your corner group, I would think. And then safety, you just got to see. I mean, Dalton Brooks, man, come on. He's going to be fine. It's Dalton Brooks. This is an NFL talent right here. And then you have Ratcliffe and Bryce Anderson there. You got Miles Davis coming up. You got some options
who is
there.
a stud.
Yeah.
Who is a stud. And,
Yeah.
like, there's just too many pieces there, like you said, just for it to not work out, either next year or the year after that. So
Yeah, 100%. Well, all right. Well, I have you. I don't have too many callers. If you have a couple more minutes, I'll ask you a couple more questions. I have one about Marcel Reed. I mean, just your confidence level going into next year, first of all, and then this bowl game to me, I think it's somewhat important, kind of gauging him and where he is going into spring. I want to see where he's at after a couple weeks of bowl practice, being the guy for half the season, like we said, working from behind with Connor being the one for spring, fall, early season. I mean, do you think this bowl game is a pretty important game for him? And then what's just your overall thoughts going forward with Marcel as the guy they're obviously building around?
I think the practices are more important than the game. And I would say that, this is a great opportunity to, gain chemistry with that receiver room for next year. But the reality is, you don't have all the pieces in the building yet that are going to be playing wide receiver next year. So, I don't know. I mean, I would like to see him play well, especially against, this particular defense. But I'd also just like to see a pretty dominating game for the boys up front. USC is just getting obliterated in the portal right now. Lincoln Riley's really feeling it right now. And then their linebackers coach took a head coaching job. So, there's a lot of issues over there for USC. So it's not so much about how Marcel Reed plays. I would feel a lot worse about this team. I think A&M can win this ball game, and I think that they should. But I'm not so much worried about Marcel Reed playing well or not playing well. It's a different roster that he's working with right now. And last year, he took an absolute makeshift roster, granted against one of the worst secondaries in the Big 12 last year, and did pretty well with it. So I'm gonna say, if he plays well, yeah, it'll add confidence to me, but I'm not gonna lose confidence if he plays bad.
Right. Right. And how about just overall with Marcel as the guy they're clearly building around, adding Zeno as a floor guy? I mean, clearly comfortable with Marcel going forward. Confidence level with him as the guy going forward. I mean, I feel pretty good, mostly because of the mindset. Obviously has tools, has some deficiencies as well. His development's key to the team. Just overall temperature regarding the situation.
I don't know if you've ever gotten this, hear me talk about him, but he hasn't necessarily. There have been moments like where he's instilled confidence in me, as a passer, but I think there's just been simply too many times so far that he just hasn't, made reads, gone through progressions like he needs to. I think there have been, and there have been great throws, and there have been instances where he uses athleticism to his advantage. I just haven't seen enough of it. I do think like he is the guy that you can build around.
Yeah.
Given that we're returning basically the whole offensive line next year,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully you're going to have an improved wide receiver room. So because of the tools, right, and because of the experience now, and because of like who you have as an offensive coordinator, and people are maybe not going to like this, but Colin Klein is a mobile quarterback, was a mobile quarterback, loves working with mobile quarterbacks. Like I think he's going to figure it out with Marcel Reed. It just might not be like the elite passer that we think he's going to be, but I think like in terms of orchestrating an offense and doing all that, I am high on Marcel Reed for the future, but I do look at quarterback, as a position to like I like Brady Hart, I like Miles O'Neal. Obviously, those guys aren't playing early. Jacob Zeno, like you said, clearly a depth piece, but I'm high on Marcel's future. I'm just not, willing to mortgage everything for it right now. So, but he's a good football player.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to say that the floor of Marcel Reed, given what Colin Klein likes to do and given his running ability and given his mindset, is relatively high with the pieces you have around him. Especially, you're going to be a good running team next year. I think that's pretty, especially if Le'Veon Moss comes back. We have to get that announcement. But O-line coming back, Le'Veon Moss, the full room potentially coming back, floor raisers and the true freshman, you might not have to lean on him as much as other rooms, other situations would. I would think there's a relatively high floor with Marcel.
Well, yeah, and almost more important than having a good quarterback is having an identity, right? So, and if you're building, it was very clear, when in the LSU game, right in the second half, like they're like, all right, I think our identity is running the football, right? And we might as well have Marcel Reed back there if we're just going to run the football 40 times a game, right? Now, obviously, things changed when Le'Veon Moss went down. And having Basantas injured for an extended period of time was tough as well. But
that combo doomed us, I think, for that stretch. It disallowed us from potentially winning one of those, the Auburn game specifically. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll try to get past that. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do have an opportunity. You probably heard me talk about it. I don't think you've made your playoff show yet, so you might not want to do this. If you predict a correct playoff bracket, I'm gonna ship you a Christmas present. Do you want to do that, or do you want to wait for your show? Because I was checking for your show and it hasn't dropped yet.
We didn't make like a full playoff prediction bracket. We just made like a round one. We're going, round by round. But I guess, man, if I'd make a playoff bracket, I haven't really made a full playoff bracket. But your take with Notre Dame, though, I love that take with Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Because I do like that side of the bracket and like the way that they play football. I think it can be very beneficial bracket for them. And also, too, like, whoever's coming out of, like, SMU, Boise State, Penn State, they can absolutely beat as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%. They got to get through. Georgia's the big one there, but I don't know if this is the same Georgia team with Gunnar Stockton, so.
Yeah, but I will I'll probably take Ohio State beating Tennessee, give me Texas beating Clemson, give me Ohio State beating Oregon, give me Texas beating Arizona State, give me Texas beating Ohio State, and then on the other side, give me Notre Dame beating Indiana, give me SMU beating Penn State. I know, shocker, whatever. Since this has no actual repercussions.
Wait, did you say SMU beat? Wait, say that again. Who did you have winning that one?
I said SMU beating Penn State.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and then I'll take SMU beating Boise State there, and Notre Dame beating SMU, and then
you got Notre Dame in the championship.
I'm not going to say it, Drew, but I think you know what I would say. I'm not going to say it on your show.
I'll just put the letter T. All right.
Yeah. And you can lowercase that one for me, all right?
Okay, yeah. We'll do that.
But yeah.
Hey, just make sure I got this right. I got Ohio State, Over Oregon?
Yep.
So they win the rematch. Okay.
Which I know people think I'm crazy, but I can't get over how talented they are, man. And whatever.
They
I'll
are.
be
It's
wrong.
just the big game Ohio State, though. That's the fear. But, hey, if they get through Tennessee, they'll have gotten through a big game. So we shall see. All right, we have Little T winning it all. I appreciate your time. If you get it all right, I will ship you a Christmas present late.
All right. Well, look, between you and me, let's hope that I don't. All right.
I hope you're not getting a present, man. I really hope you're not.
I'll assume that I won't. So, all right,
Yeah.
Drew. I'll catch you later. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for the long call. Appreciate you, man.
You got.
All right. Good old Matthew Dawson. Check him out at the Redshirt Sophomore podcast on YouTube. They do great work. All right. Couple more callers in here. We're going to go long. We have time. We have a lot of stuff to go through. So it's Noble Guy's turn. How you feeling, Noble?
Hey, wow. Didn't expect to have to follow Matthew. That sucks.
Dude, you're
really
fine.
good
You're fine. You're fine, man. You give us good stuff too. What are you talking about?
Well, I did write a bunch of notes for what I thought about the season. I don't want to
Go for it,
I'll
man.
go through.
I'll pull it up so we can follow. Do you mind if I pull it up through our?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, that's the short version of it. And while you're pulling that up, I'll say the 2024 Ags in review. So, I want to say that this year was not a good year, and that's okay, because it wasn't a bad year either.
Yeah.
And if this is a year one, and if this is Elko's floor at 8-4, then honestly, that we're back to where we were. We wanted to get past that, but considering the last two seasons and what we went through,
yeah,
and the mess, like no one was happy with how we finished. But considering where what happened throughout the season, and we'll explain all this, what you see here on the screen, it's okay. And here's why. So what you see on the screen, all the grades in the parentheses are the letters from last year. And aside from, the front seven, last year's defense, we were at best mid across the rest of the team. And that was for last year. So we'll go with the unit by unit first.
All right.
So I'll start on let's see what I want. I'll do defense first. My going into the season, so that's the first grade you'll see. You'll see that I had pretty high hopes for all the defensive units, and the worst being a B minus for the safeties, and then the rest were B's, or and the defensive line was A plus. So specifically, I'll start the defensive line. I think this one was probably one of the more disappointing units on the field, not necessarily because of production, but what we expected out of them.
100%.
And the whole reason why we thought like A&M was going to be anywhere within a playoff conversation or any kind of postseason run or anything like that was because we had an elite unit on the team. Every good team, any playoff bound team or conference championship has to have something about them that's like, oh wow, that's a side of the team that can take over the ball. We thought it was this defensive line.
It had to be. It really had to be for us to hit our ceiling, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And then, so going into the season, I thought it was going to be an A plus, I'd say. And then the second grade is the mid-season. I'd say it was an A minus because you started off a little slow then, and you really started like cooking, through the first part of conference play. And it looked really, really good. Nick Scorton, the Shamars, the DBs, everything about it looked fantastic.
Arkansas, Missouri, those were kind of the high points.
Yeah.
LSU second half had some stuff, but then
Yeah. It really, the grade changes after the LSU game. You'll see that.
Yeah.
And then, with the defensive line, like at the end of the day, like by the end of the season, it was a B.
Mm-hmm.
I thought because it wasn't like it was getting gashed for gigantic yards, but then elite units get to make elite plays, and then we just were not seeing any of that by the end. Like the fact is, like we had to blitz to get pressure on all our opponents at the end, and the defensive line just wasn't able to get home.
The thing that kind of blows my mind, D-line, is that they had a good game versus LSU, the second best offensive line probably that we saw all year.
Yep.
But against Notre Dame, a young offensive line, they did have a quick game that kind of countered us, but still not productive. South Carolina, what you would call an average to below average offensive line that far into the season, and then
Ugh,
Auburn,
yeah.
same situation. You weren't as productive as you wanted to be, but the problem was sloppiness, man. They couldn't tackle, they could get into the backfield, they could win their share of one-on-ones, and they also gave up stuff in the running game, and they weren't controlling their gaps as well as you would hope that level of D-line to do. So that was really weird, just to see like them falter against those opportunities.
Yeah, I think honestly, like, and a lot of people are talking about the offense. I'm going to say the offense related, but like my biggest concern with this year was the defense, because that's Elko's specialty.
Yeah.
When you hire a head coach and they specialize on one side of the ball, like people are concerned about Sark because his thing is offense, and offense has not been showing. Now, I think that's a product of quarterback and some other stuff, but that's neither here nor there. But that's the way that people, like, at least I view, like, Elko was like, I thought there's going to be a top tier defense. Now, there's not to say, like, there's obviously, I think, a step up from year 1 to year 2 in his defenses, like we've seen before. But like the concerning part is that you had this amount of talent on the defensive line. It was insane. And we just weren't able to do anything. And then just to reflect, I'm going to talk about the defensive line the most, just because it was like the most premier part of our team.
Yeah.
But then I thought the secondary, honestly, as a mixed review. So that specifically with the cornerbacks, I honestly, like, I was like, we're going to get better, because last year we were D+. It was bad. It was really bad.
Really bad. Yeah.
And I thought like the talent we got in the room was good, and I think they played at a B across the season.
And this is without Chappelle, and arguably at times nickel was our weak point. So I think it's pretty admirable that I kind of feel the same way as you there.
Yeah, like I think they got steadily better, but then going down to safety is what made them look worse.
Mm-hmm.
I had high expectations for safety. I thought they would take a huge step. They were a C last year. Went into the season thinking it was going to be A-. They showed potential at midseason with a B-. They were making the early season, they were in the wrong spot, or there were reasons balls were going over their head. And by the end of the season, it was just like anybody's backfield at that point.
Yeah, the Auburn game really kind of set that C in place, I would think.
Yeah,
and then misfits versus South Carolina, giving up some big plays. But I really thought the safety group looked its best when Dalton Brooks got back into the game. But in that part of the season, you weren't really getting tested downfield that much. I know Arkansas hit their fair share of big plays on the season, but not a consistent quarterback, not a consistent, deep ball threat on that team. I thought the safeties did really good in that game. Same with the Missouri game. But then after that, once you got tested, because, Auburn is an explosive offense. They just found ways to lose games, and they cooked us. And then Quinn cooked us in the first half. So, yeah, man, I agree with that tapering down for a C. I think my only disagreement, I don't know if it started with an A-. I would say I would flip maybe your early and mid-season. But aside from that, I definitely agree with the overall trajectory.
Yeah, and like this was my own personal opinion. I tried to like gauge like what I thought some Aggie fans, but then obviously like some things were like, if I didn't know, I was gonna put that was my own expectation.
Yeah.
Elko was specialized in the secondary, and I still think we have good talent. It was just surprised by the lack of development at that position.
I'm just glad you get everybody You get everybody back in the secondary. You lose Trey Jones and BJ Mays, but you get hopefully Chappelle back. I feel really good about the personnel. It has to take a step, but it does under Elko.
Yeah, and I'll harp this as far as like steps for next year. Like, it sucks that we're gonna lose all the defensive line talent. There's no way to replace it, quite frankly, on apples to apples. I think it's gonna come down to just doing your job, because even with the talent, we weren't able to do our jobs of simply tackling.
Yeah.
Like, if I could just fix like a handful of things, top of that list is tackling. And quite frankly, I think we win a couple games if we just learn how to tackle.
Oh, yeah. South Carolina's a different game if you get a sack in the first drive of the game.
Even Notre Dame.
Yeah, true. Yeah, bad angles. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, angles and tackling. It's like that. It's an NCAA game in real life. Like, I used to get mad at the NCAA game because, like, how can the safety take that bad of an angle? They just ripped off the 75-yard run at me, and like, oh,
college players do be doing that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's so bad.
Yeah, I know.
That's so accurate.
And then we saw it. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. Anyways, that's the defensive review. If I'll feel a lot better. I think as far as talent acquisition on the defensive side goes, I think we're solid with the acquisitions made so far, except for defensive line. That is such a point of concern because we're so right now skinny, the
Yeah, we
defensive
are.
line,
We are skinny.
and that's not something you can live with in the SEC. I think, and I'll get into what next season gets when we get there. But anyways, we need to see some moves there. It's a little scary right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Transition to the offense, like this was side of the ball that got a lot of criticism this year. I think honestly a little unfairly so, considering. I mean, from the beginning of the season, I'll put it this: I think the wide receivers and the quarterback at the end of the day helped the season, capped our season because we were just unable to do anything down the field. Because if you think about it, or especially early in the season, I mean, like A&M was averaging 29 points or 30 points in conference play, and then you lose your best weapon. The teams at the back end of the SEC conference schedule, they can see what you've been doing, and they've just like essentially adjusted that. And what you hoped in Connor Wegman, which was like I went into the season thinking we're gonna get like almost near elite play from the quarterback, and that would be the difference maker for the passing game. We didn't get any of that.
Yeah.
Um,
I was the same way. I was like, you don't have the most elite weapons at receiver. We had offensive line questions. I think, we had some hope for running back, some hope for tight end, but really Connor held our expected ceiling. I thought Connor was what would elevate this team offensively.
Funnily enough, from a besides the O-line, obviously O-line took the biggest step in improvement of anybody, I think.
100%.
This year. So they went from a D- last year to a B. It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
At their best, they were an A-, I thought. When DeSantis was healthy at the end of the Mizzou and LSU games, they looked really solid. But then it was everywhere else. Like, you just had nothing explosive downfield. And the only thing you had going was Le'Veon Moss. And then you were kind of capped from there from the very get-go because Ruben Owens was supposed to be an explosive playmaker. You lost him. And then your wide receivers, the only hope was that you had Connor Wegman who can make the difference in that, and you didn't have that.
And we saw it in one game. We saw what it could look like. We saw what it could look like versus Missouri.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of what we expected.
Yeah.
Like, Connor hitting, just being accurate, finding opportunities, just finding receivers that were available, and not a ton of explosive passes, but some good chunk yards passing the ball that game, just finding soft spots in defenses. And I thought we would get a lot more of that on the season and just give us kind of a steady burn passing. Never felt like we'd be super explosive passing the ball, unless Moose took a step up, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. I mean, Le'Veon Moss became a playmaker. I don't know if I necessarily expected him to be the playmaker that he was. He definitely exceeded my expectations when he was healthy. And then Ruben was that opportunity as well to be an explosive player off the bench. So you went in without one guy. Moss became that guy. You didn't have really any other explosive weapons. And then you lose Moss, and then your offense just becomes much flatter. You had Reed, but teams could really sell out for Reed. Plus, Reed is still a raw quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why Moss was like a very pleasant surprise, because if you take Moss away, and you did by the end of the season, you saw what our offense. And there was a world like if we didn't have if we just had Ruben Owens, and we lost him, or even we just had Ruben Owens, we would be even a worse offense. I think the original plan going into the season was to look a lot like Tennessee, where we play very, very good defense, and we're a power run and we take shots down the field with a near elite quarterback.
Yeah,
and then that
really
whole
good
thing,
comparison.
he just took a bunch of hammers to the face from multiple different factors to the offense. So the lack of creativity, I will say, in the Texas game is not unforgivable. Obviously, I still think it was. I think Colin Klein was dealt a bad hand, and I still think the game against Auburn was very impressive feat.
It was. There was some good stuff in there,
and I give him credit for that.
Offensively,
I think ultimately what haunts us is the Auburn game, because 93 was I think I predicted 93 on the season.
Me too.
Because I saw a path for 10-2. Obviously 8-4 was always on the table, and that's where we're at. But 8-4 with the hand we're dealt, and no one outside of A&M is going to care about this, because ultimately as a division SEC coach, you're paid to win. You're paid a lot of money to win, so figure it out. But I think the moves we made so far, I'm excited about. That being said, I know I talked to you about this through Twitter earlier, but like, I think the depth of the wide receiver room looks really good, but what we're looking for is one more wide receiver that is a for sure day one wide receiver who can take over the X. Like I want someone who can push Noah Thomas, because Noah Thomas can, quite frankly, kind of sit there and feel comfortable about his starting role, and not because no one's gonna. I don't think there's anyone on the roster right now that can challenge him for it. Maybe by the end of the season, but that's a lot of games you could lose before your wide receivers develop at the end, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you definitely need to add a floor raiser, an immediate talent, an immediate threat, and I think they'll add it. They've been money getting the receivers. They've been getting all the visits they want, it sounds like. Got to find one. There are more guys entering every day in that receiver room. D-line is more concerning because you're not seeing as many entries in the areas of need.
There's not.
And we haven't capitalized on any just yet. So, yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. But all right, Noble, I'm going to transition you. I'm sure you want to get in the running for the Christmas present, right?
Yeah. All right. I was going through this today, so it's tough. I'm going to go all the home teams win first round except for Tennessee, Ohio State. I think
you got Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah, I think Tennessee. I don't know if you saw this, but there's like a lot of chatter. Tennessee fans have bought nearly 42% of the tickets.
That's insane.
At Ohio State, and they're now calling it Neyland North on Google Maps. You can see that.
That's
they
crazy.
even have a pin in on the river for where they're going to throw the Ohio State goalpost when they win that game.
They're going to storm the opposite field.
Yeah.
Oh my! How does the fining work there? Who gets fined there? Does Penn State get fined and Ohio State gets the money? That's interesting.
I think Ohio State would let Tennessee storm their field so they can get the fine from Tennessee so they can help pay off Ryan Day's buyout. Just kidding, that's not happening.
Hey, that they were saying if they lose to Michigan again, it's gonna happen, but I don't know, man. Who knows? I don't think they'll do it.
I looked into it because I think Ohio State is one of those programs where like 10-2 should not be what they're looking for. Like with their schedules, with their talent, with their money, and everything they have going for them, they should be in the conference title game every year, and not losing to Michigan 4 years in a row. That's for sure. But that's another topic. Anyways, I have Tennessee winning a close one. I think Tennessee's built to exploit Ohio State's weaknesses on defense or on offense, and like they're going to need to go. Like honestly, if it snows, that's in Tennessee's favor. I think if Tennessee's
because of the play styles.
Yeah, I think if Tennessee's offense can just be a little bit better, then they'll like if it comes down to Nico. If Nico just doesn't like screw up, I think they can win the game.
Yeah.
Then I have Texas beating Arizona State. That's a horrible matchup for Arizona State. Texas is designed to do stop what Arizona State's best at, and Texas has got a lot more talent than Arizona State does.
Yep.
It's a great story, but that story ends.
Yeah.
And then
Tennessee Oregon.
Oof.
I know you want to do it. You want to do it.
I'm going to Oregon. I like Oregon's offense too much.
It's so nice. It's so crisp.
The tennis. I will say this: Oregon defense is good. It's not great. They gave up 30+ points to some like the Penn State and Ohio State.
Yeah.
And so Tennessee could gash them for yards, but I don't see that happening again. But I don't know. And then I'll take Oregon over Texas because I think. And it's not just because I hate Texas, because so until they put Arch in, as a starter, even then it might be too late, because like if they don't, they need to play Arch like in the early games. Otherwise, if you're going to throw them against Oregon in that kind of game, that's not a recipe for success. I think
they'll have the Arch package ready. They didn't show it versus Georgia. I think he had like a play versus Georgia, but they used the hell out of it against us. I bet we see it. And I would say Clemson is closer to us than they are to Georgia. I think they'd be comfortable playing Arch versus Clemson. I think they'll use them.
Yeah, I just think like there's just not going to be enough offense for Clemson to beat Texas, and then Texas like that Texas Arizona State matchup's even worse than Texas Clemson.
Oh yeah.
So I think Clemson plus 12 would be a decent bet.
Could you imagine if Clemson wins though, then they get to Arizona State, and then can you imagine if Notre Dame beats Georgia in the other bracket? Ooh.
Oh man, so like
you can go to the bottom bracket now. You got Oregon in the top bracket.
Yeah, I'm going to take obviously Penn State over Boise State. Great story, Boise State, but you're the 52nd ranked playoff team in playoff history for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that.
That makes sense. I didn't see it, but I totally believe it.
Yeah, there's 52 teams that are in the playoff
And they get the
history.
bye week. They get the round 1 bye. That's so
That is
weird.
what's wrong with our
Ugh.
current model is that we allow not that Boise State shouldn't be a playoff team, but they shouldn't be a bye. Anyways, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
We can have the offseason, how we can fix the playoff.
100%.
Because this is madness.
We'll talk about
This is
that for
madness.
sure. We'll get into it. I know.
Real quick, we have a system where the best team, the number 1 seed, has to play the hardest path and may not have a shot at the championship game. That is wild to me.
I know.
Yeah. Anyways, I love the sport, but we just do clown things sometimes.
And look at Penn State is just in such a nice spot. It's
the
insane.
loser of the Big Ten has a better chance to get to the championship game.
I know,
this is what
dude.
pisses me off about our sports sometimes.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's broken,
Anyways.
but we'll fix it.
Yeah.
We will
Boise
fix it
State,
here on this channel, and we'll send the letter in, and they'll fix it.
Yeah. I actually came up. Me and my buddy came up with a model where a Super League includes relegation system. That would be really fun to talk about in the offseason. But
We'll get into it.
Yeah. Anyway, so Penn State over Boise State. Notre Dame, Georgia is absolutely an incredible matchup because Notre Dame is the kind of is built to beat Georgia because they play good defense and they have a mobile quarterback, which Georgia has struggles with.
Yeah.
And then they'll obviously be on their backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And so
Are you going to do it?
The matchup screams Notre Dame.
You're not
over
going to do
Georgia.
it. You're not going to do it.
But I'm not doing it
Damn.
because I believe in Kirby Smart. I think
Yeah,
Kirby Smart is the best
dude.
coach in college football.
I
think
I have gained so much respect for Kirby this year because this is not his most talented roster. But
Not
you
at
can
all.
see him out there. He is in
Kirby,
every
yes.
huddle. He's on the field. He is willing his team. He is the most active. He has to burn the most calories out of any coach in the country. He is
He
in
sniffs out every
play.
fourth down.
Yes.
And he knows when to go for it on fourth down.
Yeah.
That is A+.
The fake
he's
punt.
better than Dan Campbell at it, quite frankly.
The fake punt versus Texas.
He knows how to win a game. It's insane. And it's not and he still has a great talent on this team. That's the wild thing. Is this is not his talent team. This is not his best team. But this is might be his best performance with that schedule.
I wrote Kirby on the bracket
Yes, please. It's going to be Kirby.
Yeah, I did that. I did that without even realizing it. I just did it. You're right. We're putting Kirby there. Okay, that just naturally happened. That's like a Freudian slip, but it's real.
I thought you meant to do that.
No,
but
that was
that's
unintentional.
100%.
No, it's right though.
Kirby is the factor. Okay, and then Penn State against Georgia, another great matchup because Penn State's just I think a good, well-rounded team.
Yeah.
They lack a bit on the offensive playmaker side.
They don't have a great receiver court. Yeah.
No,
Great best tight
I
end,
think,
but great running back, great offensive line, solid quarterback. They lack those speedsters.
Yeah, this is a defensive battle. What Penn State can do because they'll be able to see what Georgia did against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
If they make it past them, so that's really interesting. That being said, Penn State has never won a top 5 matchup, and they're not going to win this one. So give me Georgia to go to the championship against Oregon, and we got a Dan Lanning versus Princess versus Master in this Dan Lanning versus Kirby Smart.
I would love to see it.
I think Oregon, and this is kind of chalk, but I think gravity holds out. I think stars matter. I think ratings matter. And Oregon's got a ton of stars, and I think they're probably the best team in the country, and they beat pretty much anyone out of the bracket, except for Georgia, because Kirby Smart is the boss, and he will have that leg up. I think the Master I think this is not the only time we see a Georgia Oregon matchup in the next 10 years. I think we're going to see maybe a couple repeats.
Yeah,
and it's going to be this is going to be the Saban Kirby, effect. Except and it's going to take a Dan Lanning a couple times because I think this is the way I predict it. Oregon has everything on paper they should be able to beat Georgia. I think though the difference is that Dan Lanning likes to take risks, and they don't always pan out. Right now he's rolling the dice almost as frequently as Dan Campbell does, and when he work out he looks like a genius, but he has the talent against less opposition to make that work. Against Georgia, I think they have equal talent for the most part, and I think Kirby knows to sniff that out, and then it's going to come down to a blundered fourth down attempt or something like that. Georgia has to stop, and they win.
I love it. I love it. Look, I think what I'm coming to based on hearing a few predictions tonight and listening to some national people, I think the winner of this Indiana Notre Dame game and the subsequent matchup versus Georgia, that is just like the crux to this whole thing, in my opinion. Because it just that kind of just sets the tone. Because if Kirby gets past this round, I'm inclined to say Kirby's going to win the whole thing. I'm with you. I think if Kirby can get past Notre Dame, Indiana, and they feel good about it, Gunnar Stockton passes the test, I'm almost there with you. I just think Notre Dame's going to stop them right there. But if they get past Notre Dame, if it's Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame has the better chance between Indiana and Notre Dame of beating Georgia, I agree with you, man. It's a good pick. It's a really good pick.
Yeah, I think Gunnar Stockton is underrated because I think he was I think he might have been a 5-star coming out of high school. I knew the name before he stepped onto the field against Texas. And there was a reason why he chased off Brock Vandegrift off to Kentucky. Not that Brock Vandegrift looked impressive or anything like that.
He was a pretty high 4-star.
4-star, yeah. Anyway, he's a program guy country. For sure. I think he, outside of the pick at the end of the game, that was pretty bad. Like his, that's gonna linger in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did against the Texas defense, because Georgia had nothing going offensively in the first half, and what he was able to move the ball against the Texas defense, who was, I think, might be the best defense in the country. They're at least top 3 in the country. I think it's Tennessee, Texas, and
Ohio State, maybe.
Yeah. Some sort of combination of that.
Yeah.
And I liked what I saw. I think you give Kirby Smart and this team 2 weeks to prepare. Because if I'm Kirby Smart, I'm preparing for Notre Dame a week ago, because I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get to play Indiana,
you feel better
awesome.
about it.
I'll adjust my game plan with a week to go. But you get a head start, and I think the whole team, and Josh Pate said this, like, I think a backup quarterback can raise everyone else's like ceiling and floor to play at a much higher level. And I think if they can keep it really will come down to, like, can they keep Riley Leonard in check with a run game? I mean, to be fair, we did for a long time.
We did
against Riley Leonard. We just, finally couldn't hold our water anymore. And USC gashed, in a very depleted USC at the end of the year too, with a new quarterback, was able to gash Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So, I think they're getting a lot of love for the fact they played a very weak, and they won big. I'll give them that. But I mean, at the end of the day, their opponents weren't exactly world beaters.
Sure.
Even USC.
Yeah, and that's why I say that Indiana-Notre Dame game is so big as like a litmus test to see where Notre Dame's at. If they go out and handle Indiana, I'll feel differently about them. But if they show some of those struggles, Indiana can move the football. I mean, if they do some of that stuff that USC was doing on them, that's different. And here's the thing with the Gunnar Stockton situation. I agree. It elevates everybody. There's a sense of urgency. But this is a long path. How long does that last? How long does that spark last you in a playoff run? That getting that backup in there, the Patrick Ewing effect that I keep mentioning. Like, you get the backup, everyone's more alert, everyone plays a little bit better. But then eventually you regress to the mean, you become who you are, and you're left with a less experienced quarterback. But like you said, he was rated well coming out of high school. He is a high-profile quarterback. It's just sudden change. We'll have to see what it is. It's really good stuff, Noble. Any closing thoughts? I appreciate the call, man. That was really good stuff. You did a good job with the postseason grades.
Oh, thanks. I think I'll just close that with a couple of quick points. I think this bowl game is very important. I think it's a must-win. I say a must-win because our team is a lot more motivated. We obviously lost some pieces, some pretty big pieces to the draft and the transfer portal. But USC looks like almost dead in the water. And if you can't beat this team, we need a sense of, like, can we win a game? Like, what is winning like? Because we don't know what that looks like right now anymore.
That's a good point.
And
it's very winnable.
And quite frankly, like, Elko's been out-coached in certain aspects, and I need to see if our players have taken a step forward with the last 15 practices of tackling. If Marcel has progressed in his reads, I'm excited to see what the wide receivers look like. And we get Ruben Owens. That's going to be huge. So I think this is a great exhibition game. I'm going to call it this. And then we get to 9 wins.
Yeah.
We don't get to 9 wins very often.
Yeah. It's fair.
It's been a long time. So you take what you can get, and you beat a bad USC team. Well, not bad, but I mean, they it's a lot of close games, but like this it looks bad, but they're still a big brand. I think that's huge.
They were probably better than their record indicated, but they're not the same team that got that record right now with the
Yeah.
exits.
I
So
think,
if you're right, it's such an
yeah.
opportunity that you would feel pretty bad if they don't make the most of it.
Yeah, I think we're really gonna see like Coach Wiggins is gonna earn his money this offseason, especially because if I had to choose right now, I'd rather have a big defensive line commitment than another wide receiver. I have to settle this wide receiver room to take another defensive line. I would totally do it. Obviously, if you can get both, awesome. I think we're all in on Concepcion at this point. Hopefully.
That'd be awesome, man. I know he's not the build to be that other outside receiver, but you can do a lot of things with him anyway.
Yeah, he's so good. I honestly, like, what I value is proven talent, like proven production, I should say.
Yeah.
Like right now, like we have a lot of like upcoming talent potential, and something about transfer receivers, especially their young, scare me because if they don't play right away, I mean, like they came here, they can go somewhere else too. Especially
the only thing is, I know players trust and like Elko. That is dated back to his DC days. A lot of trust in that guy. I think he just has whatever it takes to talk to these guys. So I would think that the pitches were very honest and straightforward. But you're right. It still does come down to competition. If they don't win out, that's a different wrinkle they have to deal with. But again, you're right. The priority is on the D-line. Even if we went to the receiver room the way it is right now, I wouldn't feel stellar about it, but there would be upside there, and you would have a senior leader. But you want to add one more. Anyway, Noble, all right, I'm going to get on to the last caller. I appreciate the call, man, and hopefully I'll be sending you a Christmas present because you don't have Texas winning
it. Hopefully. All right. Cheers, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Later, Noble. All right. Let's get into the last caller of the night. Theo, sorry to make you wait so long. You're on with Drew. How you feeling, man?
I'm just peachy. Sitting back, chilling, enjoying the life and listening to people having good takes and good arguments, and I enjoy it all.
Yeah.
Still, for some reason, fighting this stinking cold off. I don't know about you, but I still got that.
It was probably a 17-day deal for me. I'm finally getting over it. I still have a little bit of congestion, but, I mean, it started the Sunday after the Texas game. I started getting a headache, and then the Monday I had a fever. And I got over the fever pretty quickly, but then all the like flu-like or like the upper respiratory stuff got me, and I was down bad for like 10 days, and then the last week was like kind of a ramp up. It's been brutal, and they linger around, but I wish you the best. Hopefully, you're on the tail end of it. Oh, you got your phone's falling asleep, Theo, but I'll direct you. We got 3 topics, and I'll let you go wherever you want with it. Portal needs, the way you feel about the roster, the way you feel about the portal. Marcel Reed in this bowl game and going forward, your confidence level in him. And at the end, if you want to give your playoff prediction, if you get it all right, I'll send you a Christmas present. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the portal.
All right.
A lot of people are freaking out about the portal. I know they're, stressed that we haven't actually hit on the defensive line that we've been trying to hit on. But also looking for very specific body types and very specific roles
for D-line.
And it's hard. And it's hard to recruit those kind of guys.
Yeah.
Very easily, unless you're obviously going to start right away.
Yeah.
And with the guys we have on the team already and what they've put on tape, I can't say for sure that just because we bring someone in like the Purdue defense, I don't think he would have had to fight to play. Like he would have had to fight Kennedy and how to play. And not to mention Daylon Evans and Solomon Williams. Like we got guys here too. It's not like we're dirt to talent. I think we're overreacting because last year we were dirt to talent and we were able to go get the most elite of elite talent-wise in terms of scoring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas this year, we're not looking so much for anyone who can play that's elite. I think we have elite pass rushers there. We're just looking for that run stopper.
Yeah,
It's hard to find.
and if there was a Scorton available and he was looking our way, he would gain a starting role as a strong side defensive end. But that's not really, there's not a Scorton looking our way right now.
Right. Even the Purdue defensive end, he wasn't on Scorton's level in terms of playing that strong side defensive end.
Yeah.
What really hurts is that Shamar Stewart decided to leave early.
Yeah.
I really wish he would have came back. I really felt like he needed a year to come back and develop his body a little bit more. I do think that the allure of being somewhere between the top 20 and top 30 pick was too much to give up, which I understand. Injuries are a big thing in football, and one wrong injury and you don't get that top 25 pick.
Yep.
You
And
don't
you're
get
out
that
of
top 15
mulligans.
pick.
You're out of mulligans if you get hurt after 4 games next year. So, yeah, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
You got to take the money when it's there, get in the contract when you can. And we all know he'll test well. He just hasn't refined himself very much, as much as he could, but he will test very well and get himself early enough on the board for his liking, I would think.
So really my biggest worry and my biggest focus is actually at the D tackle position. And I think we're looking for more of a backup 3 that has experience, and then a true nose, which is weird because we put Samu out, which I didn't understand. I don't know if Samu was told to transfer or if he was just looking for play time and he didn't want to wait one more year behind Regis. But
See,
I
I'm
am
of the
still-
opinion with Samu. I know we differ here that I don't think even in the current status of the room he was guaranteed a rotational spot. I think he was a long-term guy, and I think he can find place to play somewhere else. I think there's a world where Samu would have gotten passed up by younger guys.
But see, that's the thing. He would have took the Regis role. So, but at the same time, you could be right there. In terms of having a true rotation, he would have been getting 12 to 15 snaps.
See, and
Regis-
where we differ is I don't know about that. But fortunately, Regis is back.
Regis is going to get 25, 30 snaps.
Yeah.
So, and you need to find someone who can play that one take role for the other, 30 snaps, 45 snaps. You need 2 people there. One that's more of like a pass rusher that you can bring in on downs for like a NASCAR package that isn't giving up too much weight
Yeah.
to the guards and centers that they face. And then also you still need another big guy that is behind him. I miss when we had the Daylon Mack, Jaden Peavy, Bobby Brown defensive tackle room. We're missing that room.
Yeah. Well, you got to add at least 2 D tackles, 1 3 tech, 1 1 tech. I would think one of each. Maybe, yeah, because I guess Regis is just committed to that 1 tech. He's just a little bit of an undersized 1 tech. You need one of each. I think you need a strong side D end. I like the idea that a couple people have floated of Landon Rink playing strong side defensive end because of his athleticism and his uniqueness. I think he could be a rotational guy there. I think Sims can play early. But you definitely, I think Rodas Johnson is the perfect model. You don't want these high-profile
Right.
starters. You want these guys who need a change of scenery, who just want to be in a rotation and play. And we can absolutely offer that right now.
Right. And I feel the same way. And because it's that way, it's going to be hard to pull these kids in until probably the spring portal. I hate to say it.
Possibly.
I think we're
And
going
that's
to be
fine, I
mashing our,
think.
we're going to be mashing our teeth and our fingernails, complaining about we didn't pick up this person or that person in the portal. But it's because we're looking for very specific roles.
Yeah.
That's the issue. I love what we've done at wide receiver.
Of course,
You
yeah.
know me. I love Craver. I
Yeah.
think he reminds me of he reminds me of Christian Kirk,
Sure.
believe it or not.
Sure.
Maybe a tad faster and maybe a tad quicker. But he reminds me a lot of Christian Kirk.
Just like a little bit skinnier but quicker.
Mm-hmm. Um, and I think that that will help open up that jet sweep game. Um, I also think that with him and Bussy there, that allows you to do more things with Bussy and not have to worry about, okay, if he gets hurt, put in the slot type of thing. Um,
I hope we. Do you
I
ever
don't know.
watch Penn State and what they do with their tight end Warren, where he's taking snaps, he's doing double passes, he's lining up in weird ways. He's like a go.
Hmm.
He's their go-to guy, but he's also a tight end and a gadget player. And I wonder if
Hmm.
Bussy could develop into like this little lighter version of that, where they're willing to try all these different things with him and just really always have that threat there. Because I think he has that skill set, and I think I would
I
like to see
think
an offense that
it's
uses him that way.
I think it's coming.
And I know it's
And I
gimmicky. I know that's kind of, whatever, G5 feeling, but Penn State's doing it at a really high level.
but you got to do that every once in a while. Sark does that.
Yeah.
Old dude over in Alabama does that.
Yeah.
Dan Lanning does that. You know, Penn State's doing that. Brian Day does that. You got to have enough wrinkles to make your defense guess what you're doing. And I hate to say it because I really loved Klein's offense at Kansas State, but we didn't get into that here.
Yeah.
Where was the wrinkles of, oh, the tight end looks like he's going to block, and oh, now he's running a wheel route
Yeah.
out of his blocking stance? Like, we're missing that for some reason. And part of me thinks it's because we had developed the whole system around Connor.
It's a very good argument.
And then when that went sideways, they were still trying to figure out what to do with Reed. And they really simplified it so that Reed could understand the game and get the situation under control and get a feel for the game. And I'm knocking on wood, and I guess, hope, if hope was a fifth or something, whatever, we'd all be drunk or something. But I hope that maybe next year, with Reed getting a full.
Oh, you just dipped out, but I'll fill in the gap. In addition to all of that, it's a year one. So your contingency plan install for Marcel Reed probably wasn't what it could have been in a year two, where you have been drilling him with the twos in the specific Reed set. Maybe they would have that in spring. Maybe they would have some more of that stuff in fall camp. It was a year one. And the sudden change, I'll just say, disappointment that happened with Connor this year with the injuries and inability to find, get into rhythm and just be Connor Wigman, that there's a good argument that set us back. There's a good argument that losing Ruben Owens set us back. And, O-line injuries later in the year set back the running game, which they were just leaning on. Because at times you could just rely on the running game because it was very effective when you were healthy and had Le'Veon Moss and Basantis in the game. And they could kind of just cheat the system and just be bland, but it worked. And that went away. That tool went away. So, yeah, I totally am aligned with what you're saying there, Theo. Uh-oh. Did I lose Theo for good? Theo, Mel Nordstrom, touch your phone. Your phone's probably asleep. You're muted now. Now you're unmuted. Uh-oh, I lost Theo. All right, I'll give you a couple seconds to get back into it. Let's check in on the chat real quick. Drew, one more point about what do you and Theo think about A&M being on the SEC Netflix show? I don't know much about it. I'm hyped to see more Aggie content, so bring it on. I'm sure it wasn't a distraction. I know some teams rejected it. It's cool. I don't feel a certain way about it, but it's cool. Fun fact, I watched Cade versus Quinn in the Texas High School Football State Championship. We're going to rematch. That is crazy. It is really crazy. Quinn and Southlake had been offensively dominant all season. They ran into the best defense in Cade and Austin Westlake, and Quinn did not look composed against a good defense through 2 picks. It's going to be a fun rematch. I'm excited. We'll live stream that game. I guess Theo's out for the night. It's too bad. I wanted to get Theo's playoff picks so we could get a chance to get the Christmas present. But I'll be going live Saturday. I'm going to go out. I'm going to watch a game at a bar tomorrow night. I never do that. I stress when I watch football. You've seen me watch football. I'm going to watch the game tomorrow out, but then I'll go live for the morning and afternoon games on Saturday with you guys. So I hope to see you all there. Last call, Theo. I'm going to have to end the show, sir. I'm stalling as long as I can. But hope to see you guys tomorrow. First time where I thought his 99 recruiting rating was overrated and Quinn would not be a world beater. Let me try this one. Theo, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Oh, it's a miracle. We got him. Yeah, no, I was just agreeing. I don't know if you heard what I was saying, but I totally agree with you on the
heard all
change
of
of
it.
plans, and it's also year one. You don't have maybe there was a read package you could have installed with more time and another off season. Everything was focused on just installing the base system for Connor. So yeah, there's definitely a path where that losing players set you back, and let's see it. Let's see this thing open up with Reed, and it feels like Reed is a guy that Colin Klein should be comfortable using.
Yeah. But also, I hate using that as an excuse because
Sure.
why couldn't we open it up like everyone else? You know,
Yeah.
especially towards the end of the season against Texas.
I thought we did versus Auburn, but just went into a shell versus Texas.
And honestly, I really think we. My frustrating thing is we had success when we went 5 wide. And then for some reason, we decided to go back to being tight formations
Yeah.
and allowing that defensive line and those linebackers to get us. When we went 5 wide early in the first quarter,
Yeah.
and basically anytime we were driving the ball, we were spread out. We forced the defensive line to play spread out, and we were getting to where we wanted to be. And I don't know if that's because we wanted to protect Reed and we didn't want to put him in bad positions and rely on him all night or what. But I felt so frustrated and so dejected after that game about Colin because I cannot stand when play callers go away from what is working.
Reed was having success. He was finding windows, and he had a really bad pick, a really bad decision in the game. And after that, it did feel like they shifted a bit. I feel like they lost a little trust there, but it was working. You're right.
And then when we came back to it after, when we basically had to do it, we drove right down the field and did it. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden we go back into a shell, which I'm not complaining about the 4th-and-1 call. I'm not complaining about the goal line stands because Elko said it best, and we've always said it best ourselves. If we want to be a program that when we get down there at 1st and goal, we want to be able to pound the rock into your face, knowing that we're going to come running down your face.
Yeah, and I hate to
And-
argue like a sentiment from a coach, but I thought it was pretty clear based on how we were the previous 2 SEC games that we were not that at the time. I thought it was
But it's
pretty
an-
clear, and I just feel like that's kind of bashing your head against the wall. I think you give
But
yourself
Drew-
a chance other ways. And hindsight's
Drew,
2020.
Drew, you know me, you know you. We're offensive linemen, we're defensive linemen. We know that it's a mindset, and it has to be installed. And sometimes the worst way that it's installed for that mindset is you got to taste that defeat.
Oh, I'm not installing at the hands of defeat. I'm not doing that.
No, no, I'm talking about you have to install that mindset of we got to get this done
I guess.
only by defeat.
It's the principle. I know they're hammering that in, and and it is what got us there. But you're not the same. You weren't the same unit that got you there. You
No,
weren't
and-
the dynamic 1-2 punch at running back. We weren't clicking on the offensive line like you were earlier in the year. I don't know, man. We can go back and forth on that
And
all day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I can't complain about that because of what Elko's trying to install. Everyone else can, and I can accept y'all's criticism for it because you're right. At the end of the day, it's trying to win.
Yeah.
But I also see Elko's side of it of, okay, this is the program we want to do this against.
Yeah.
This is the team we want to be. And sometimes you go out there and you do it, and sometimes you get it kicked in your face like it did, and you grow from it better.
Yeah.
Because now in that weight room all season, you know what old boy is going to be selling to them? You cannot get 3 inches to win the game.
That is true.
You know that's what that strength and conditioning coach is going to be saying to them every single time they do a single rep where they start struggling.
I will also
You're
add to
gonna
that the blocking scheme was either a bust or they were not accounting for Ethan Burke on the weak side chase because he's the one that chased down Amari and made first contact. I'm not saying they got
weren't.
enough push, but that happened.
Right. So, um, now, yes, to win the game, I would have loved for them to do a play action boot out of
Yeah.
that. I would have even heck, I might have went wide and did a QB draw.
I love our QB RPO with 5 wide. I believe that running touchdown versus LSU where Marcel Reed got pushed in, that was a 5 wide RPO. I think we ran maybe 4 of those throughout the year, and I think most of them were successful. I love it when we do that when you have a guy like Reed. But
And
yeah,
and so I agree with y'all. Like in that aspect of okay, what do we need to do to win the game? I absolutely agree that we should have made a different play call. In the aspect of okay, what do I want this program to be, and how we want this program to be, I understand the play call.
yeah,
So both of them are right, both of them are wrong. Especially, could you imagine if we went 5 wide and Reed threw a pick?
yeah.
We'd all be complaining that we.
Yeah, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. All you had to do was get the play and everyone's okay. It didn't work out, so you're mad. But then again, you did try that several times throughout the game. I would have been able to stomach, trying the bussy play and having the same result you had versus Auburn. I would have been able to stomach, a 5 wide RPO that you couldn't execute on. It was just hammering your head against the wall that was what did it for me, but I do understand what you're saying. All right, let's transition. Real quick, you need to be quick on this because I do have to get out of here soon. But Marcel Reed going into the bowl game, what's the level of confidence, first of all, with Marcel overall as the team the guy the team is building around, but also the importance of this bowl game for his development?
I don't think anything for the bowl game can help me with Marcel Reed as this year. And we've talked about this both on and off all year. And for me, for everything we've talked about, it's the mechanics, it's the details, it's the placing your feet and giving away the plays. It's the things like that he's going to need muscle memory worth of work to be done in order for it to develop further to where I think he could go.
Yeah.
I'm very high on Reed, but it's going to take him a lot of snaps, and it's probably going to take him all off season to do it.
Sure.
And if he does it, then next year I can see him be a mid 60 completion percentage person. I can see him hitting 40% on his deep throws. And if he hits 40% on his deep throws, well, we beat Auburn.
Yeah.
We beat Texas. Because there's plays that were there that we just did not complete on the deep throws because, well, we're mechanics.
Yeah. That's where his accuracy went down, was on those deep balls, and like we saw it throughout the year, maybe 1-2 plays a game.
So,
and that's the difference.
And I really love our quarterback room. I really think getting that super senior
Zeno
is going to help him a lot in that aspect. I also think he may push him. Who knows? I hope he doesn't push him because let me rephrase that. I hope he doesn't push him to the point that we lose Reed as the starter, because then that means we messed up on the evaluation of Reed.
Yeah, true.
But if he does push him to the point where he develops and gets better to where we want him to be, then, well, let's go to Golden Corral because we're going to the national title game.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's going to be much, but there are going to be great pieces around him. All right, Theo, last thing. Do you want to enter the playoff running so you can get a Christmas present from me if you get it right?
I'm just going to go straight to the end. I'm going to go Oregon, Georgia, and I think Georgia wins it 24-21.
Okay, let's go backwards. So you have Indiana, Notre Dame. Who is Georgia beating in round 2? Indiana, Notre Dame.
They're going to beat Notre Dame.
Okay, I'll leave that there. And then SMU, Penn State.
I'm going to go SMU.
Damn. Okay. And then do you have SMU or Boise in that game?
Boise.
Dang, you have Boise in the semis. All right, that's cool. It's possible, especially if SMU beats Penn State. All right, then you have UGA winning that one. Let's go backwards from the top. You had Oregon. Then who is Oregon beating to get there? Is it going to be Texas or Arizona State or Clemson?
Where's the Arizona State Texas game at?
Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I don't know where that is. That's round 2. So you're saying Texas beats Clemson, though? That's round 1. Do it.
Actually, give me Clemson.
We got one. Dio has Clemson beating Texas.
I'm gonna put it this way. I think it's because of Dabo's experience
It's
as
a good point.
a head coach, being in that situation and knowing what it's like.
It's very true.
Not to take any credit away from Sark, he did get to the playoffs last year. But there's just something different about Dabo being that underdog coach in a playoff run that we've seen before.
It feels very Dabo.
It just fits. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like for instance, if that Clemson spot was say a Louisville or even a Pitt, they don't have that DNA, and maybe it's the similar team, similar way to get there. But Clemson has that, and they might even have another caliber of athlete than those other schools that could be in this spot potentially. So,
Right.
yeah, man. I mean that's the big kind of factor there. If Clemson were to win it, you would think that is a role that plays a role there. So then Clemson or Arizona State,
Then I'd have to take Clemson over Arizona State
and then Oregon over Clemson.
because the game's going to be closer to Clemson. Now, if the game was in Dallas or Tempe, I would take Arizona State. Or not Tempe, but Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah.
Because the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah.
I would have taken Arizona State.
All right.
But, yeah, that's how I'd get there.
And then Tennessee, Ohio State, the last one you need to pick. That's a tough one.
It is a tough one. But give me Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I just think they're a little bit better in more areas. I would say Tennessee probably has that quarterback upside there to where if Nico plays up to his potential for one game, he can beat them on the road. It's tough, though. It's tough. He hasn't really done it all year consistently. So I have Ohio State win. I think Ohio State has weapons all over the place. One of the best defenses in the country. I have Ohio State winning. And then you have Oregon winning the rematch yet again. And then Oregon, UGA in the semis, or in the championship, and then Kirby winning it all. All right, Theo. I think I might have lost you again, but I appreciate the long call. I appreciate everybody tonight. I'm going to let you go, Theo. Appreciate it. We just made it to the finish line. All right, Theo got cut off again. Guys, thanks so much for being here. David Franz, Noble Guy, Benzo, Peach Atlanta. Noble says, I think the offensive game plan against TU was so predicated on avoiding the Texas linebackers and trying to exploit what we thought was a perceived weakness of interior run, even though it wasn't working. We didn't pivot and adjust. Yeah, that was the thing. Was like, I understand running that early in the game, but to run it 3 times in a row to close the game was the painful part. Thanks to Lash. Thanks to David. Thanks to Ryan. We had an idiot in here, and I appreciate the idiots. Thank you, idiot. Lil Shy, thanks for being here. Kyle, happy birthday to your child. Figurine Champ, thanks for stopping by. William Q, Antonio Nutrition, Benzo, of course. Redshirt Sophomore, thanks for the call from the Matthew Dawson of the Redshirt Sophomore. Thanks to Lash. Everyone who is in here today. Ronnie Barker out of Tokyo. Troy. Gary Mertens. Melissa. Everybody. Jeb, who was here early. You'll have a great night. Smash the like on your way out. I'll see you guys on Saturday.